StarCast is proudly sponsored by Doghouse Systems. They build amazing computers. It's that simple. I need a new computer in the worst way. Actually, I'm saving for my Doghouse as we speak. So if you need a new computer, make sure you go check them out and use the code StarCast or Biscuit. You'll get yourself a $25 Jinx card and support StarCast in the process. We are also sponsored by Allcast Media and Best Buy. Support StarCast and go to tiny.cc/moregg. That's tiny.cc/moregg for free shipping on 90% of their inventory, 10 to 30% off select HD TVs, $20 off 12 months of Xbox Live Gold, which I'll be actually getting for myself, and specials on gaming consoles, and literally hundreds of other deals. Once more, go to tiny.cc/moregg to support StarCast. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 82. Or is it 81? No, it's 82 of StarCast, the StarCraft podcast.
Hell, it's about damn time for StarCast.
Incoming transmission.
Biscuit.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 82nd episode of StarCast, the StarCraft podcast. I fumbled a little bit in the beginning there because, well, the show notes were screwed up and said 81. And much like Ron Burgundy, I will read whatever the teleprompter tells me. I am your host, Garrett Weinzorl. With me, as always, is Kyle Ferguson. And joining us today for the very first time is Matthew LookNoHands Fink. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. It is it's warming up here in Florida, which really sucks because it's December, and I'm as you can see behind me, I'm ready and raring for Christmas, and it just doesn't feel like it.
At least you're not in Chicago where it's supposed to be snowing, and instead it's raining. It's going to be a gray Christmas here.
So what? It's just freezing cold rain. You just walk outside. You're just like, oh my god, this sucks.
Oh yeah, it's like 2 degrees too high.
Nice. Well, Matt, we're going to have a formal interview in our strategies section, but why don't you real quick just do a quick intro. Let everyone know, who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Matt Fink. I'm a Watson Fellow for 2011-2012. I got a fellowship to go travel the world and play StarCraft for a year. Try and find other people who game in other countries with disabilities and find out how technology is changing their lives. So I've been in Europe for the past few months. I just got to Asia a few weeks ago, and I'm going to be here in Korea for about the next 6 months playing StarCraft, practicing, and showing up at as many events as I possibly can.
Oh, well, that is just absolutely awesome. I know I'm jealous, and I'm sure Kyle is too.
Not to mention, it seems we've pulled you out of bed, as it were. It's 8:30 there in Korea right now.
Yeah, it's about 9 now, but yeah, it's all right though.
Oh, well, you're a trooper, sir. Thank you very much for getting up early to geek out. So, well, let's get this rolling. First up, we have, as always, this week's status report.
Status report.
All right. Well, Kyle, you showed me this today, a forum post on wellplayed.org. Phil Phoenix wrote this. It's an interesting letter that addresses the old boys club of StarCraft 2 this past week. It's kind of a letter to the community pillars.
Yeah, posted about 2 days ago. Found it actually by Disco Rat's tweet. And everyone's kind of thinking about what can we do to advance esports. It's the end of the year. We're all starting to reflect on what has been and what it could be. And Phil Phoenix wrote a very inspirational, casual article that basically said, well, start out with this. You guys are cool. No doubt about it. This is addressing the old boys club, or the pillars of the StarCraft community. But we need to talk. There's a lot of fuss these past few weeks about the lack of independent esports coverage, both from you and from your fans. But fans and pillars are not the same. And he goes on to make many different points, saying that they have the star power, so they're the ones that can get all the interviews, as well with all the contacts. And he completely acknowledges their success from what else? Hard work. I mean, they've been at it for a very long time. Some of these guys have put over 10 years into the professional scene to become the big names they are. But as we know, and we've discussed this a little on past shows, these people have started to become successful and get bought up by other organizations. Some of the organizations they were actually beginning to critique. And now we feel like that avenue isn't being used anymore. Also, he addresses that they're still kind of in a grassroots mode, which is making them continue to promote themselves, which is really great. I mean, tweeting when their show comes on, making sure people check them out, check out their friends' shows, but they're not reaching out and helping to establish other forms of media, independent forms of media to cover these things. So now there's kind of this vacant hole, and everyone's kind of going, well, where do we get our news and our real questions being asked about the competitions?
And of course, the answer is StarCast. No. This is a really interesting article, and I agree with it. I mean, somewhat. I mean, still some of the shows, regardless of the fact who they're affiliated with. I mean, it depends on the show, but I like some of the ones I listen to. I still notice that there's a good deal of criticism, even with certain pros that are affiliated with certain tournament circuits.
Oh, absolutely. And the internet's just full of raging jackasses who want to hear their opinions validated. And they're like, why? Why are you saying, I didn't like it, but it was okay because you're paid by them now? No, I mean, people are going to complain no matter what you do.
Well, I mean, we had an ongoing discussion about chairs at MLG for almost a month. People emailing us back and forth. Oh, there's not enough chairs. Well, there is. It's worth the money, but it's not worth the money. Shut up, everyone. If you don't want to go, don't go. But yeah, it's really interesting. And kind of out of this, Kyle, you and I did a little brainstorming this week, and we'll be adding a new segment to try and spotlight lesser-known StarCraft 2 community shows, websites, forums, etc. So why don't you explain it, Kyle? Because I mean, I named it, but that was about it. It was pretty much your brainchild.
Well, while we may not be one of the pillars, we certainly had quite a bit of success with our podcast, and we're very proud of it, and we'd love to share it with other people. And granted, we're guilty of this. When we say we read this here on IGN, we read it on Team Liquid, a lot of our news comes from these major sources. So we started a new little segment happening right after esports that you can check today called The Natural Expansion, named by Garrett. And that'll be highlighting some random bit of the community that hasn't quite been spotlighted. So if you're out there and you have been working on some sort of awesome project, a crazy graph, a spreadsheet that turns all your wins into gold, like, send it in. Let us know about it.
Nice. Matt, what's your feeling on the subject? Do you think the Day 9s and JPs and Artosises of the world, we're not getting true 100% opinions from them because of their affiliations with all the different tournaments? Or do you think it's kind of fine the way it is?
Well, I think some people are better than others at removing their biases. I'll give you an example. So yesterday I called in to F Slasher because I was a little concerned by the fact that GOM TV had decided to remove the Code S seed as the prize for MLG Providence, ostensibly without telling MLG first.
Yeah.
And I asked Slasher, whether he thought there were people who participated in the tournament who wouldn't have participated if they had known that the Code S spot wasn't a guarantee. And, he clearly avoided my question and gave me a non-answer. Basically what he said is that the people who realistically had a shot at getting the Code S seed either didn't want the Code S seed in Stefano's case, got Code S seeds in the end like Sen and Idra, or had their Code S seed revoked for bad behavior like Naniwa. And I thought it was a little disappointing, right, that he answered that way, because there are all sorts of people who, obviously didn't have a shot at getting the Code S seed, but participated in the tournament because their dream was to go to Korea and participate in GSL. That's why they showed up to that event, even if realistically they didn't expect to win. So, I don't know. I mean, I think Day 9 in particular does a pretty decent job of staying above the fray. I think that's partially because he's not associated with an MLG or an NASL or a GSL or whatever. But I do think that Slasher's right when he bemoans the fact that there's very little independent journalism in esports right now. And I think even if it's not a problem now, as esports continues to grow, especially if and when it ends up on television in the United States, you're going to see more problems occur if the industry doesn't mature in that fashion.
Well, awesome. Very good points. Day9 is probably one of my favorite too. If for no other reason than he just seems to be the most rational. It seems like a lot of other people just get up in arms and super angry or super don't care, and he's always kind of like, all right, guys, hold on, take a step back. Let's take a look at this and try not to get excited. And that's always what I've really enjoyed about him. And maybe it's a good point. It's probably because he doesn't have a strict affiliation with any one tournament. Anyways, also in news this week, the Season 4 lockout has started, and Season 5 will be starting the week of December 19th. So as per usual, you can still ladder like crazy. You're still going to get your points.
Yeah, but not as per usual. Everyone's out for blood again. I think the whole scene has kind of exploded. Like, I was doing perfectly fine last week, but this week, everyone had their A-game face on. Or everyone went, wait, my bonus pool stopped going up? Well, now I can get rid of it. And let's play forever.
Well, that's just how it goes, man. That's what everyone seems to... I know, for me personally, I'm like, well, I can't really go up or down, so I'm just going to go try crazy new crap and see what works. But, yeah, it's fun. I however...
Any fears going into the next season?
My only fear is that I just got my early access to Star Wars The Old Republic, and I'm just going to get rolled because I'm not going to be practicing much during Christmas thanks to that damn game. Oh my god. And that is, I promise, the end of talking about it on this episode, because I promised myself I wouldn't go off on this tangent about my bounty hunter named Zerg. I got the name Zerg. I'm very excited.
You're already squeezing more in right there.
Shut up. So anyway, Season 5, which will start on December 19th, will no longer feature the maps Abyssal Caverns and Nerazim Crypt. Their place will be taken by Arid Plateau and Entombed Valley. Arid Plateau only has... That's a 2-player map, and Entombed Valley being a 4-player map. Now, in the show notes, you can see pictures of those, but of course, you can also go to the official Blizzard page to check out the new maps. I'm always excited by new maps, but I'm just like, they're not what's in tournaments, so I'm not that excited.
Yeah, clearly they're continuing their tradition of getting rid of what is the most downvoted maps. I mean, I heard nothing but bad things about Nerazim Crypts and Abyssal Caverns, pretty much. I don't think anyone's too sad to see those go. And they mentioned that if something cool should come out of the Team Liquid contest of the map creation, that maybe they'll look into something like that, if it should meet the Blizzard standards. Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, last time Team Liquid had one of those contests, we had really cool results, so be interesting to see what they do with that. Before we move on to strategies, I just wanted to point out, if you're in the Christmas season and you want to mix it with your StarCraft, there is a weird-ass StarCraft 2 Christmas video out where they make a dancing Santa out of Marines, and you should go check it out. The link is in the show notes. And also, if... All you could think of is just, man, that guy must have some mad StarCraft skills. What's he doing making this, then?
Yeah, pretty much. Have you seen this video, Kyle or Matt? Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, I've seen it. My aunt sent it to me just a few days ago. Like,
yeah, it was just like
that is an odd thing to send.
The music literally has nothing to do with Christmas, but it's
I know.
And it's very poorly edited, but it's so fun to watch.
I just wanted to see a Hanukkah Baneling come in and take out that Santa.
Are you saying there's a war between Hanukkah and Christmas?
I'm just saying that if all the Christmas holidays were races, I have no idea.
Oh, you're trying to...
Israel just banned Christmas trees, so maybe there is a war.
Oh. Damn, getting topical. Ooh, yeah. I didn't know that. Wow. Maybe there'll be something about that on Jon Stewart tonight. Anyways, also, just real quick, wanted to let everyone know, if you downloaded the show right after we posted it last week, you probably got episode 52, I believe it was. You're probably wondering why we were talking about a balance change to the burrow time of spore crawlers. But that was my bad. I just have when I'm making the show, I have a little thing. It's just called episode link, and I believe it's episode 52. So if I don't go in there and edit the number, it doesn't get changed. I was just too fast with my copy and paste. What you need to do if you are a podcast listener is delete the episode 81 you have and then refresh, because iTunes gets all confused if you don't. So
yeah, it seems like a rather old, archaic system that it can't update itself like that. But what are you going to do? It's a fine means of distribution, so as long as nothing goes wrong. So if you downloaded it after, 5 o'clock Saturday, it's perfectly fine. But if you got it that night or between that time, you were probably wondering, thinking you were getting trolled.
Yeah, is this a April Fool's episode in December? What's going on? So, and big thanks to everyone from the community who let us know, and there were quite a few of you, because we're like, oh, what's going on? I had Facebook messages, Twitter messages, emails. It was awesome. So thank you all for that. Anyways, it's time to really pick your brain, Matt. Let's go into strategies for this week.
Nuclear launch detected.
Welcome to Strategies for this week. It is time for the Matt LookNoHands Fink interview. So, are you ready, Matt?
I am when you are.
Just waiting for one of our guests one of these times, Kyle, to just say no.
Just throw down their headphones.
I'm going to leave right now. What we always do is we take questions and concerns from our community. So, first up, we have Octane Pro, who is also sitting behind the curtain doing the video for today's episode. And his first question is, what is your gaming resume? I.e., games you have played in the past, what was the first video game you played, etc.
Okay, well, I played the super old SNES games like Tetris Attack and that kind of stuff. Those were the first video games that I played. But, the first video game that I actually sat down and engaged with was MechWarrior 4. I played that. I played in a clan with a bunch of friends, had a lot of fun. Really glad to see that MechTech has MechWarrior 4 back up and running, and that there's a community still there. I played some Brood War. It's probably the game that I played most prior to StarCraft 2. Most of it was casual and with friends. I played only very briefly on IC Cup. Never got out of D. Never got any better than D. I really didn't engage competitively with a game until StarCraft 2. So I watched a lot of Pro StarCraft 1, and I remember searching for English commentaries on YouTube long before they were common. But yeah, not really until StarCraft 2 did I do anything terribly serious.
Oh, well, very cool. You kind of half answers his next question, which was, did you play the original StarCraft and Brood War? But his follow-up question to that is, what was your race of choice then versus now?
Race of choice in Brood War was Protoss. I played some Terran, but I really like Protoss better.
Nice. And what about currently?
Currently, Terran.
Terran? Nice.
Yep.
Nice. All right, finally, Kyle, we had LZ Gamer on as our last guest, and Kyle plays Zerg, I play Terran, so it's just this big Zerg, infestation against me.
I'll walk away for a bit. I'll let you guys enjoy your mules and your I can't get supply blocks.
I get supply blocked all the time, but that's because I drop mules too often. Many viewers have been wondering what events transpired to put you in this current place in your life physically.
You mean my disability?
Yes, I'm assuming that's what Octane Pro meant by this.
All right, so let's see. So I was born without a spleen, meaning that I couldn't fight certain types of infections. And at the time, it wasn't something that was standard to check for. Actually, because of what happened to me, a lot of hospitals in the Midwest started to do that. But I ended up with a pneumococcal sepsis and spent about 3 months in rehab in the burn unit at Hennepin County Medical Center in Minnesota. and I had all 4 limbs amputated in order to save my life, and a lot of my body's covered in skin grafts, and I don't really remember anything before that, which is a blessing because, I don't have to deal with those types of emotional issues. I know that I have a lot of friends who have lost limbs later in life, and it's been really tough for them. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, that's one heck of a story. I mean, it obviously goes without saying that you've definitely, you definitely accomplished a lot. So, I mean, that's nuts. Octane Pro's next question is, how did you get connected with Tilt Gaming?
Okay, so Tilt Gaming is actually a team that I founded. So TG came out of my college's CSL team. I started playing for Carleton's CSL team at the beginning of my senior year, and I became really good friends with a lot of the people on the team. And when I received the Watson Fellowship, I needed aides to go with me abroad. And so a lot of those friends have volunteered to come, travel with me. And so those people are the other players that are part of Tilt Gaming.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Oh, very cool. What college did you attend?
Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota. It's a small liberal arts college.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Can you tell us a little more about your fellowship?
Sure. So the Watson Fellowship is given to about 30 college graduates each year, new college graduates. And the fellowship is basically money to travel the world, have an adventure in something you're passionate about, and learn something about yourself and the cultures that you're immersing yourself in along the way. So my project is to travel Europe and Asia, train StarCraft 2, immerse myself in esports culture, and try to connect with other disabled gamers around the world to see how technology has changed their lives.
Wow. People need to just send links to that every time someone gives them crap about video games and saying that it's doing nothing for the world. What's your long-term career plans?
Okay, so outside of StarCraft, eventually I want to be involved in the creation of health policy, and I want to be a doc in a foreign country.
What was that second part?
I want to be a doctor in a foreign country.
Oh, okay.
I want to practice medicine because it seems like a really direct way to use my passion for health and disability policy to help others. But at the same time, I think I would be really frustrated if I wasn't able to change the system that I was a part of. So, and I majored in political science in undergrad, and I actually just finished my second application for graduate school this morning in public health. So.
Oh, well.
Oh, awesome.
Good luck, man. I hope you get it. That's awesome.
Thanks.
We have Octane Pro's next question. He said, "We have heard that you have been training with the I'm adding this, the infamous In Control. What's it like training with such a well-known and respected StarCraft 2 pro? And also, is he as intimidating as he looks in person?"
Well, I've never met him in person, actually.
Oh.
Which is interesting because he actually wrote a letter of recommendation for me when I applied to Watson, and it was the first time that Watson had ever gotten a letter of recommendation from someone who had never met the applicant face-to-face.
Oh, wow.
So they thought that was kind of cool, actually.
I'm sure. It goes well with the story of the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah, very much.
So, yep. So, Jeff is a great coach for a lot of reasons. But I think the most important thing is that he sees me not as a person with a disability, but as a fellow competitor and a friend. And that's been really cool because it means that, our coaching sessions and stuff are free from, any awkwardness or problems, that would normally be caused by that, right? So it's more like a bunch of friends talking about the game and, talking about realistic solutions to some of the unique problems that I've encountered, rather than anything else.
That's wonderful. I mean, we hear nothing about praise for being fans of In Control, and it's great to hear that he's so great to you.
Yeah, definitely.
And to answer Octane Pro's question, I've seen him in MLG, and yes, he's a very intimidating-looking man. Shadow Wisp is the next contributor of questions, and he said, he wants to know, what's the coolest thing you've gotten to do in your travels so far?
Oh, man. I don't know. There have been some cool things. Let's see. So we got press passes at DreamHack. That was pretty cool. Spent a lot of time in the press area with the Team Liquid guys and had some fun at the after party there. Getting to spend time with Mr. Bitter and Rotterdam outside of the studio and getting to know them has been really, really awesome. So they're really, really cool guys. I don't know. I guess those would be the coolest things so far.
That's awesome. We haven't gotten a chance to talk to anyone who was at DreamHack. Was it as awesome as it looked on video?
It was pretty awesome. It was cool to be in an arena and watching StarCraft.
Yeah, rather than the pulled out chairs and let me unfold you another one. That was an impressive venue.
Yep.
It's definitely a lot more epic than our Thanksgiving, so that's for damn sure. Shadow Wisp's second question, what does your family think about the notoriety you've gained through StarCraft?
So most of my family is pretty unaware of, the whole, idea of competitive gaming. So,
one of those things you have to rephrase a different way as I'm an ambassador for electronical arts.
There you go. Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, the only two people in my family that really, have any idea of what's going on, on any real level are probably my little brother. He's a Call of Duty player, and he has some concept of what MLG is and how big it is and that kind of stuff. He's going to be a senior in high school next year, and he really wants to go to an MLG and compete. So he has some concept of what the world of esports is like. And the other person is my aunt, actually.
I was about to mention, because you said that she was the one who sent you the Christmas StarCraft video.
Yeah, so she actually was the one traveling with me on the first leg of my trip through Europe. And so she's gone from being a non-technological person. She doesn't own a TV. She didn't have a cell phone for the longest time.
Oh, wow.
She didn't have a computer that could really do anything but word processing. She's big into yoga and spends a lot of time meditating and a lot of time outdoors and stuff. So to see her go from that place to being upset that she missed Day 9 streaming Skyrim and having to go back and look for the VODs and then yelling at me when I haven't sent her a list of what all the games, the big tournaments and stuff are for the next week is pretty cool.
And I'll say, damn, I know that my family, my parents listen to our show on a fairly regular occasion, and they still don't have a damn clue what's going on. So I don't know. Maybe Kyle and I have just failed as an information hub, but
We haven't sat him down.
Yeah. Okay, Dad. Here's
This
day
is
9.
a Marine, yeah. This is day 9.
He's very goofy, but that's just awesome, man. Getting your to get an aunt, someone who's just not even remotely,
participating in that world.
Have a damn idea what esports is to be watching Day 9 dailies. I mean, that's badass. Veterac writes in, he says, how do the other disabled gamers you meet react to you when you tell them what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I guess one discovery of my trip so far is that it's really hard going into another culture and trying to find people with disabilities, right? That in itself has been a big challenge. The only time that I've ever had any real luck with it is at big events, right, where there are people that have already shown up. And everyone seems to think that it's, some sort of, like, interesting side note. There's no one that's been like, wow, that's really cool. I want to know all this stuff about you. I think what you're doing is really neat. It's like, oh, that's kind of an interesting project. Good for you. And then they sort of move on. Part of it, I think, has been the language barrier. It's hard when you don't speak German and you're walking around at Gamescom, through a crowd of people that are jostling each other and pushing just to get into the booths to try and have a meaningful conversation, with a person that barely speaks English. In that circumstance, is pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
So, but in the U.S. at least, I have a lot of friends who feel like the computer that they own or the console that they own, is a big social gateway for them. I have a friend who has muscular dystrophy. He's in a wheelchair. His physical condition, deteriorates every day. And he has trouble, leaving the house and stuff. But his computer, is his source of social interaction with others. It's really funny because when people look at video games, especially games like StarCraft, that are more for hardcore gamers rather than the average casual gamer,
right.
People tend to see those people as antisocial and tend to see those games as things that draw people away from real, quote-unquote, real social interaction with others.
Right.
But I think if there's one thing that I've learned so far in this trip, it's that StarCraft and games like it are hyper-social. They exist for the same reason that the internet exists, to promote connections between people, just average, normal people. You see corporations that use the internet to distribute their content, but it's really about the average user, and the way that they're using the internet to communicate with their friends, their family, the communities that they're a part of, etc.
Huh, that's really interesting. I've never even thought about it like that, because it is a competitive game, and looking from an outsider, you're going to go, you don't have any friends in that game. You're just there to beat them. If you invite me over to play StarCraft, you want to beat me. It's like a fighting game, whereas something like World of Warcraft or one of these games where you really have to get a lot of people together to accomplish a goal, that's kind of instantly goes, oh, you're building a community. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
And to anyone, though, that has that preconception of hardcore video games equals antisocial, I challenge you to bring that person to an MLG, bring them to a DreamHack, and show them. Because I mean, you were there, Kyle, when we went to MLG Orlando, and I brought Katie, my girlfriend, along. She was just like, "Holy shit!"
Oh, and when I went to a Barcraft 2 weekends ago, there wasn't a person in that room you couldn't turn to and make a oh my god face at, and not have them do the same back at you.
Yeah, for sure. It was cool having my aunt go to Gamescom with me for the first time. It was like the first big esports event that I had been to in person, and I thought it was cool, but she was totally blown away.
Yeah. I was so excited to have you come on the show today, Matt, just because, obviously, you, Kyle, and I were very passionate about games. I'm very passionate, and one of my favorite things about the gaming community is people who take the gaming stereotypes and just totally flip them on their heads, and that is exactly what you're doing, and it's just badass. Discarax is the purveyor of the next question. He says, "You are an inspiration to many, but who inspires you?"
Okay, so I'll talk about a few people like in the StarCraft world first, and then I'll talk about a few people outside of the StarCraft world.
Okay.
So I think the two people, or I should say the three people in the world, like in the esports world that inspire me most are Day9, Mr. Bitter, and In Control. So Day9, I think that his philosophy, like the way that he approaches gaming and the way that he approaches life is really cool. But I think the fact that he has the courage to not only do what he does, but give it, such effort, and like such a large part of his life and time is not only really cool, but really brave. Especially because he started doing it long before, like, StarCraft was big, so, or at least as big as it is now in the West.
Oh, and I was thinking about that the other day, the tenacity, just the cojones it took to wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to do this 4 times a week, every night, for those 4 days. It's insane.
Yep.
And he's not a hipster jerk about it. He's not like, oh, I played Brood War and the rest of you are beneath me.
Yeah, exactly. So then, like, I see Mr. Bitter as maybe next to Day9 the hardest working individual in esports. And that's why I really admire him, because you see all these wonderful events, the MLGs, the NASLs, the GSLs, and we all talk about how wonderful they are and how much we love them for such and such reasons, but rarely do you hear about all the work that goes into making events like that happen and all the time that goes into making events like that happen. And I look at Mr. Bitter as not only a person who is willing to put in that time, but like his desire to put in that time into esports and his motivations for doing it are a part of his identity as a person in a way that I have never seen from anybody else in the esports community. And that's really freaking cool. I would give anything to have... I consider myself to be a very self-driven person. I would give anything to have the drive that Ben does.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, like, outside of the StarCraft community, I guess is probably where the question was targeted, so maybe I should say one or two things about people other than StarCrafters. Like, I think the people in my life that I'm really that I really admire are probably my father and my advisor in undergrad. I admire my dad's his drive and willingness to serve others, even when it costs him, his own time and comfortability. I look at my dad as a person. He's a general surgeon. He spent 7 years in residency, after medical school, and he wasn't around, as much as he probably could have been when I was younger, or when I was really young. But, he was there when it mattered to me. And I have always looked up to him as a person who has dedicated his life to serving other people. And I think that's really cool. The second person, and actually, and I should also say, like, I've always been very envious of my father's faith and the way that's guided him down that path. The second thing, or the second person, my advisor in college, he started out, just as a professor to me, and as I got to know him, he and his wife became like a second family to me. And I guess I admire Roy because of how hardworking he is. Almost to a fault, not almost to a fault, definitely to a fault. He's the sort of guy, who takes on way more than he can possibly handle because he really wants to, do his best for everyone all the time. And he sometimes gets discouraged, I think, when that doesn't happen. But he's a really good guy. He is ex-CIA, ex-NSA.
Oh, wow.
And you'd never know it because he walks around wearing sweater vests and ties and talking like Mr. Rogers all day long in front of the class while sitting on a table with his legs hanging over the end.
See, I just assume anyone who's not constantly snapping people's necks every time they walk through the door isn't, ex-CIA. But
He's a sleeper agent.
There you go.
Oh God, you activated him. Well, that's really cool. I respect the sweater vest. That's all I got to say about that.
Yep.
Hipster writes in and he asks, what would you say to other handicapped or disabled people?
Okay. Well, I mean, all sorts of things, but I'll choose one in particular. I think maybe the most important lesson that I've learned so far in my travels is that in order to be successful competitively as a person with a disability, and in order to get the most out of your experience as a competitor, as a person with a disability, it's important that you realize that nothing worth gaining comes from anything besides hard work and dedication. And for a person with a disability, that means using your disability as an advantage rather than a disadvantage. So, for example, I'm not as fast as a lot of StarCraft players are. And so I have to be more thoughtful about my actions and how I spend those actions and how I spend that time. So, I have to, think a lot more about those things ahead of time. And I think it's maybe a more thoughtful player than most. So you have to learn to use those things to your advantage. And that doesn't just go for StarCraft, it goes for anything, right? It's funny because people ask me, whether, people always ask this question. I'm actually surprised it wasn't on your list. I was surprised no one asked it. They always ask if I had the choice to get my arms and legs back if I ever would. And the answer is absolutely not. What I said about using your disability to your advantage is also true about life. I feel like, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah, I'm getting some white noise on my end too.
Is there an open window with a plane going by?
No.
Oh, there it's gone.
Here, just give me a second.
Oh, weird.
Sure.
Is that better, guys?
That is way better. That
Yeah,
must have been what it
better.
was. Probably just some kind of open loop issue.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, no
Yeah,
worries.
no, thanks.
We've had much worse things happen on the show, like Mork wearing a tuxedo last week.
Well, I mean, basically, what it comes down to is that I feel like my life would be very different if I wasn't disabled. I wouldn't have met the people that I've met. I probably wouldn't be on this trip right now, right? If I wasn't disabled, because I wouldn't have the same passions that I do. So I would never trade any of those experiences for the world. I think that it's important that I think it's important to recognize that challenges are put in our life for a reason, and that we have the ability to make decisions. So when you come up against a challenge, you have to decide whether you're going to let that challenge define who you are, or whether you're going to change because of that challenge for the better. And I don't know. I think my disability has changed me as a person for the better. And so I think that like it's important for other people with disabilities to recognize that although it may not always seem this way in the short term, in the long term, you know, your disability can make you a better person if that's the way you choose to handle it.
That's so awesome to hear that you've taken it that way and that you've advanced your life as well. It must be rather difficult when you're trying to do this mission to bring people together through games, disabled gamers, and you've got to meet some people who are just fed up with their life and, you know, too down on themselves to really hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, right, I look at that, I look at that as a choice that they've made, right? So, you know, you have the decision, you know, as to how you're going to approach the problems that you have in life, right? I have problems because of my disability, but you have problems just the same, right? Everyone has problems. They might be different problems, and they might seem different in magnitude at the time, but everyone has problems, and the choice is up to you how you choose to handle them. Positivity, I firmly believe, is a choice, regardless of your situation.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, every article and video that has you in it out there just is like covered in the word inspirational, and now I know why. It's just, it's hard not to get like jacked just listening to you talk about all this stuff, Matt. Hipster had a second question. He wanted to know, did you ever have any sort of special training you made yourself go through to improve your mechanics/skill level? Now, obviously, you've been doing a lot of training, but anything like that specifically just jumps to your head, like, oh yes, I had to balance a bucket on my head, or something absurd.
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of my friends, I have the most trouble with multitasking out of anything. And so I had a lot of friends, especially when I was on the CSL team, that would sit there and cheese me a lot and harass me a lot and be hyper-aggressive against me, and I think that really helped because I learned to deal with those things. And I learned to spend the actions that I did have more economically in order to deal with those things. I guess, though, I think one thing that's missing from the way that people train StarCraft right now is training outside of playing games. And that's something that I'd really like to change for myself, at least, in the relatively near future. You know, I'll give you an example. So I debated for years and years in high school and then in college. And, you know, it's one thing to you know, do a lot of debates, right, and to compete a lot. That makes you a better debater, no doubt. But what I found brought me the most success was not spending all of my time trying to compete or do as many practice rounds as I could. It was sitting down with the arguments and redoing my speeches over and over and over and over and over again to a wall or to a mirror or to a friend until I had everything absolutely perfectly. So I would isolate each argument separately from the debate, separately from the round and from its context, and I would practice it until I could do it perfectly and I could do it within time. And then when I came up to my next debate, even if it had been a week since I debated last, everything instantly seemed easier, right? So you don't see people who do a lot of mechanics practice, at least not seriously right now, outside of their games in StarCraft 2. And in virtually every other sport of competitive activity, the vast majority of practice happens outside of scrimmages and that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
you don't see basketball players do nothing but play basketball games all day, every day, right? They train all sorts of different ways, and then they put that training into practice in order to make sure that there aren't any problems. So you know, people talk about massing games in StarCraft all the time, right? You see people like Huck, you know, and Naniwa who have amazing work ethics when it comes to StarCraft. But you can't tell me that someone like Flash doesn't have flashcards, doesn't have, you know, drills that he does on a daily basis besides playing StarCraft. In fact, you know, I guess I would find it hard to believe that, you know, over, say, 70% of their time is spent on nothing but games. They're talking with their coaches, they're studying replays, they're practicing specific, like, mechanics, they're placing themselves in the same situation over and over and over again, and, you know, playing out that situation until they understand it perfectly, the ins, the outs, what not to do, what to do, when to do it, how to do it, what the possible dangers are, you know, what the pros and cons of all their decisions are, right? They understand those really well, not just because they've played games where those decisions have come up a lot, but because they've made that decision a million times before they even step into the game.
That's excellent advice for anyone, because, I mean, no matter how fast you can go, what does that matter if you're not making the right decisions when you do them?
Right. And that's not to say, right, that games aren't helpful and that massing games isn't going to make you a better player. Huck and Naniwa are proof that that can absolutely work. But I don't know that it's necessarily the most efficient way to go about things.
Yeah, well, it's also, you know, part of the reasons that gamer houses work, because when you're not playing, you're eating with your teammate, you're discussing StarCraft 2, you're theory crafting, you're talking about what worked that day, what didn't work that day, what trends you're noticing in the scene.
Probably why I was so good at video games in college.
Yeah, there you go, because you're stuck in a house with a bunch of other gamers. That's exactly what my house was in college, except, unfortunately, StarCraft 2 wasn't out yet.
Nope.
Back then, it was World of Warcraft raiding and got on into Halo. There you go. That's what it was.
Yep.
The next set of questions: How long did it take you to get comfortable with the way you play StarCraft 2?
Okay, well, I guess you can take the word comfortable in two ways, right? So there's physically comfortable, and then there's comfortable with your play. I don't think I'll ever be comfortable with my play, and I don't think any pro would ever be comfortable with.
Yeah, about to say anyone who's any good at the game, I don't think is ever comfortable.
Right. But as far as like physically comfortable goes, you know, I guess it's a weird question because, you know, I played games plenty before that. It's not like I wasn't comfortable using a computer. I've certainly gotten faster as time goes on, and I'm sure I'll continue to. So, I guess I don't really know how to answer how long it took to get comfortable.
All right, and to break away a little bit from StarCraft, the next question was, what do you think about the motion-controlled systems? Are they better for gaming, for disabled kids, or do they make it harder? What are your opinions?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't really think that there's any system out there right now that like can stand up to the demands of gaming on a serious level, like outside of the, you know, standard mouse and keyboard or console controller. The one exception that comes to mind is maybe some of the equipment that there are some disabled FPS players in the United States that have used some modified controllers that are kind of neat. But like if you're talking motion sensing stuff like the Razer 6-Sense stuff or the you know, like Wii controllers or like the Xbox Kinect stuff, I mean, I don't really see that as being terribly beneficial for a person with a disability, like over the normal stuff that they've got. I've certainly never found anything that helps me, but you know, that would of course be different for other people. I don't know. I think people don't put enough emphasis, though, like on the equipment that they use, right? You hear people, especially in the StarCraft community, disparage, like, people that spend a lot of money on expensive gaming equipment and stuff. Like, people, the stereotypical, like, person who spends a lot of money on their gaming equipment but is still terrible because they've spent no time practicing, right? Like,
Right.
But my keyboard lights up and it has spring-loaded digits or whatever.
well, I'll give you a counter example. So I use a very particular mouse. And I use that mouse for a reason, because I put my arm down on top of a mouse vertically, and I press down and then I move the mouse. And so me being able to manipulate that mouse, right, relies upon the friction between my arm and the mouse being like more significant than the friction between the mouse and the table, or the mouse and the mouse pad. So like even having a dirty mouse pad or a dirty table, something as small as that, can prevent me from being able to play. So much less the shape of a mouse, the weight of a mouse. Those things that people often talk about as being not very significant are very important to me. And same with the keyboard, right? So I really prefer a mechanical keyboard. I'm a lot faster on a mechanical keyboard than like a squishy rubber dome keyboard. So I guess what I would say is that even if you don't think that that sort of stuff matters to you, it matters to someone else out there. Those products are being made for a reason, even if that reason isn't immediately apparent. You know, I mean, even keyboards that light up have a purpose, right? Because some people play at night, some people play in the dark. Those kinds of things are valuable to certain people.
That is actually usually makes or breaks my keyboard decision, because I play in the dark a lot.
Exactly. So, I don't know. Call me a hardware snob, whatever. But I like my stuff in a very particular way. And there are, at least I like to think, good reasons why.
I think
Yeah.
we all have those particulars, though.
Oh yeah, I'm a total Razer whore, I'll admit it.
But I
Me
think
too.
I think we can all be seduced by the dark side of equipment. Like, what, that mouse has interchangeable weights? Are you insane? That's awesome.
I used to think that was awesome, and then I tried a really light mouse once, and I was like, oh wow, I like this much better than a heavy one. I was like, I don't need
Yeah, me
weights anymore.
too.
Yeah, I like really, really light mice. What hotkey adjustments have you made or think would help you?
I haven't really made any hotkey adjustments, mostly because I'm already used to the way that it's set up. There is one hotkey adjustment that I think I'm going to make here in the next week. I got an EU account only like a few weeks ago. Well, it's been more than a few weeks now, I guess. And I changed all the hotkeys like to what they were like on the US, like on the NA client. Except for I forgot to switch the upgrades at the eBay, and so they're Q and W, I think by default, or maybe I just set them that way by accident. But after playing on the EU server for a little while, I found myself reaching for those keys when I was playing on NA because they're so close to A and S. So it's a lot easier for me to reach them there than where they would normally be. And they're right next to each other. And those keys really aren't used for anything else. So I actually think I'm probably going to switch those two keys on my NA client in the next few days here, because I really like using those two keys better. But the idea is, right, I want to keep stuff as close as possible together so that I have to move as little as possible. That'll help me make the most of the speed that I do have.
And I hear the sound of fellow Terrans scribbling down notes as we speak. W and S. Okay. Raceball asks, what's your average APM?
Well, like, before Blizzard totally messed up the APM counter.
The APM-o-meter?
Yeah, it was like between, I'd say on average, between 100 and 150. So,
Wow.
not excellent, but okay for, like, plat.
Yeah. Discarax had some more questions. He says, what other games do you enjoy regularly, other than StarCraft 2?
Well, to be honest, I've played a lot of StarCraft 2 lately. I like a lot of, other strategy games. So, whether it's turn-based, I was a big fan of the Civ series, the Civilization series.
Oh, yeah. Great game.
Look at the clock. Do I have about 4 hours to kill? All right, I can play a game.
I'm going to go conquer some countries. Yeah.
Yeah, but, I still play Civ 2, when I'm bored. I played some League of Legends, when I was still at Carleton, and I've come to the conclusion that League of Legends is evil because it drew me away from StarCraft. And I had to stop playing it because I was doing that at the exclusion of StarCraft, and it was really bad.
I think that message should go out to all members of the CVO team.
Yeah, I wish that message was better impressed upon other members of Tilt Gaming who shall now remain nameless.
I'm going to have to be reminded of that, too, once Kyle digs me out of my hole after Christmas and says, what have you been doing? We have a show to do. My bounty hunter's level 49.
Is that the time, or is that your bonus pull, Garrett? Get to work.
Really, Kyle? Yeah. Really? I think we have a show title, by the way. I'm sorry, Matt. Continue.
Oh, it's all right. I was just going to say, I play some RPGs, too, for fun, but a lot of single-player stuff. I'm a really huge, Final Fantasy whore. I love, some of the old-school RPGs, like the N64 kind of stuff, the PS2 kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I'm into outside of StarCraft.
I got so into Skies of Arcadia for a while in my youth.
My roommate loved that game, but I missed the boat completely. And he was playing it, during the age of 360. He was still playing it on the GameCube, and I would just come and be like, "What is this? Skies of Arcadia?"
I had it on Dreamcast, man.
There you go.
Snap! You're pulling up all the stops on the gamer cred, Kyle. I didn't have a Dreamcast. I wanted one in the worst way, but my parents were like, "Oh, you just got the N64," and blah blah. So, Discarax says, I'm going to assume you love to watch esports, including competitions and streams. Who are your favorite players to watch? And are there any players that you like to steal builds and styles from?
Okay, so the people that I watch most are the people that I mod for. So the EG guys in particular, In Control, LZ Gamer, Machine, and a Muslim. And I really like to watch Idra and Huck. But I don't spend as much time there because I don't regularly mod for them. I like to spend time on Jinro's stream because I mod for him. I like to spend time on TLO's stream because I know him outside of I guess I won't say outside of esports, but outside of Battle.net, and he's a cool guy. And so I like to hang out there. And then I watch a lot of Korean streams. So in particular, I've very recently become a big fan of watching 4GG stream and Bomber because I'm always really impressed with their play, especially Bomber's one base and two base timing attacks. Some of them are really, really mean.
Brutal.
Yeah, really brutal. And I think that kind of stuff is cool. There are a few foreigners, I guess, that don't get enough hype and viewership that I think really deserve it. I think Hash needs to get some more viewers because he's a pretty awesome guy. I think SKS Yen needs some more viewers because he's a pretty awesome guy. I don't know. Those are just some of the lesser known streamers that I watch. So as far as people I steal builds from, MVP is my effing hero. And I steal builds from him that I see in GSL and stuff. But I also like to steal builds from him that I see like on the daily because Day9 has a huge crush on MVP builds, which is really cool.
Yeah, he does.
And
Because he has good taste.
Yeah, he does. MVP is interesting though because I think although he may not have the skill potential that someone like Flash does in Brood War, I think he is going about it like in the same way that Flash does. He approaches the game in the same way that Flash does. Instead of trying to do damage, he minimizes losses. Instead of doing risky plays, he favors smaller but guaranteed damage. He doesn't do things without a purpose. So when he drops, he doesn't just drop for the sake of dropping. He drops in order to gain position somewhere else on the map. He drops for more than one reason, right? And he is obsessive, almost paranoid with his scouting, which is really cool and something that not enough players do. And like I said, I don't know that he necessarily has the skill potential that someone like Flash does, but he's certainly going about it in the same way.
Sweet. We talked about scouting last week. What match were we even talking about, Kyle? I'm having a total brain fart, but I just remember there was
it was the NASL finals and scouting the starport hidden in the upper left corner.
Yeah, because it's just very, very rarely does scouting lead to something that's really exciting. Like I've never been so jacked about scouting in a StarCraft 2 game before. So we were just like, you just need to go watch this game and watch the scouting, man. How often do you hear that?
Did you check the match before it, the semifinals, where who was that? Was it Lenok versus I don't remember.
MVP?
I don't remember who he was playing, but whoever it was took their command center, landed it behind the mineral line, and mined it all out from the other side because pros don't scout all the way in.
Oh, man. That's nuts. No, I don't think I did see that. That's insane. Yeah. The follow-up question, who's the coolest person you've ever had an opportunity to talk to about esports in StarCraft 2?
Definitely Ben, Mr. Better. I think he's remarkable because of his work ethic, but he's also remarkable because of his love for the players that play the game. Everything he does is for them. I think he's a cool guy because, of how much he's willing to sacrifice of his own time and resources in order to make esports better. In the same way that Sean is, right, Day 9. But I think Ben takes it to a very different level. Sean is great because he spends all of his time doing it, but Ben moved to the other side of the world, in order to do what he does. There aren't very many people who've done that so far in esports, to be honest. At least not outside of players who are directly gaining monetarily, usually if they're traveling that far, from their endeavors. And Ben is doing it because he loves esports, not because he's getting something direct out of it. It's not to say that those players don't also love esports, and that they're not doing it, partially because of their fans and such, but he's doing it for very little compensation, and not only without complaint, but he's excited about it.
Cool. Well, there's no substitute for raw passion. And he definitely seems like the kind of guy that it's pretty much just what fuels him. He's just full of passion. So, if you had 1 minute to talk directly to Dustin Browder at Blizzard about StarCraft 2, either design, play, balance, whatever, what would you tell him?
I guess I would say that I feel like Blizzard is going about dealing with post-development issues in the wrong way. I think they're spending too much time trying to balance the races in the game and less time trying to alter the game so that things stay balanced. So, for example, I think they didn't spend enough time when they made the barracks supply depot change way, way, way back. right, when they made the supply depot a prerequisite for the barracks.
Yeah, I remember that because that was right before BlizzCon of 2010. Because I went there and was talking to a bunch of Team Liquid guys about that. Because that change was like the hot shit right then, and everyone was like, "Oh, this sucks. You got to build a supply depot first. I used to go barracks first." And
Yeah, I think it really causes problems, right? Because I think one of the things that Brood War has on StarCraft 2, or I should say that StarCraft 2 has on Brood War, is like the sheer like volume of possibilities. And so it hurts like every time Blizzard takes those possibilities away. Blizzard didn't spend time, like, at least not out in the open, right, trying out changes like that might help to balance having the barracks be able to come before the supply depot. They were just like, nope, not going to let that happen anymore. You know, and probably 15 to 20 possible new strategies were thrown out the window without a second thought, right then and there, right? So they could have made changes to the maps to make it, you know, in order to try and balance it out. They could have, you know, made, they could have given, you know, Zerg and Protoss, you know, some more options for dealing with some of those, you know, really quick, hyper-aggressive plays. But instead, they just decided to get rid of all the possibilities, like all the different cool strategies that could have been used, you know, without even making an effort to try changes out, like outside of their own, you know, however many people on the development team.
Yeah, absolutely. Then the Reaper being another example. And then there was that one odd patch about maybe 4 months ago where they kept releasing over and over again what they were going to do. We're reducing the fungal range. We're making it shoot in a line. And then they were just going back and forth. So maybe they're like, okay, we'll let the public in on what we're thinking. And there was nothing but rage on the forum. So they said, fine, well, we're just going to stay quiet then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. And, okay, so, like, maps are another really good example, right? Because I feel like maps aren't big enough in StarCraft 2. People complain about StarCraft 2 being too deathball-ish, right, and not spread out enough. But frankly, like, the maps aren't large enough that that's a viable strategy. Like, when you have a map the size of, let's say, you know, Steps of War, or even Crossfire SE right now, right?
bring back Steps of War.
Oh, God. I'm a Terran player, and please no.
It's an ongoing joke. Yeah.
So, like, I feel like for example, look at the Pro League maps right now. Like, some of them are absolutely massive.
Yeah.
And I feel like Blizzard is making all these changes to the races, you know, and the units, and in order to try and deal with the Deathball syndrome. For God's sakes, they're even taking units out and putting new units in Heart of the Swarm purely so that they can, like, keep Protoss from making death balls every game. Like, that was their reasoning behind a lot of their unit changes. And I think that shows that their approach is not a healthy one. I think they should be looking at the maps. I think they should be looking at, you know, like, changing the way the community thinks about the game, you know, and the way that the game plays, rather than changing specific stats in order to deal with those problems. So, anyways, whatever. I think Blizzard is taking the wrong approach. I think the game is incredibly balanced right now, but I think that there were other ways that they could have gone about balancing it just as well, and we'd be even better off than we are.
That's a really interesting approach. I mean, often when we kind of ask these sort of questions, or even of ourselves, you start targeting single units as the problems because that's what you hear pros talking about, and you want to sound, you know, pro talking about it. And that's interesting. I always wonder what would happen to the game if there was no natural expansion. They were all kind of thirds, just out all over the place. And just how much that would change the scope.
Or no ramps to your main.
Yeah, or even if it was a down ramp.
That's been explored, and that hasn't turned out very well, especially PvP.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just... I would like to see a shift towards more attention to maps as well, Matt. That aside, really nitty gritty number crunching aside, are you excited for some of the new units?
Very excited.
Okay.
So not really the Terran units, to be honest.
Really, the Shredder didn't just like give you like nerd chills?
I mean, I guess I don't really believe that the Shredder's gonna make it.
That's a good point. That is a very good point.
I think I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Shredder, right, is a symptom of that same thing that I was just talking about, because, you know, they really have this desire not to be like Brood War, and so they were like, well, we really want the Spider Mine, but we feel like we can't have the Spider Mine, so let's put something in that's like the Spider Mine, but different, so it's kind of a little bit worse. Like... And so, if you really want the Spider Mine, I think they should just bite the bullet and put the Spider Mine back in. If that's really... I think they should be doing what's best for the game, not like what they think is the right thing to do, like, based on their assumptions of what a game should be or shouldn't be.
All right. Good. Respect that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. As much as I love the Swarm host and think it is one of the coolest things, just farting little baby Zerg out to die, it's accomplishing the same goal as the Lurker was, and nothing was dying in that case. So it's a strange thing.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing. I don't know. I guess I have trouble with the way that Blizzard approaches... I don't have trouble with like the way that Blizzard balances the game, because I think it's great. I think they've done a wonderful job making a very balanced game. I guess I just don't necessarily care for the way that they went about it.
Yeah. It seems like they want to see new units. They don't want to rehash. Like they're almost afraid of rehashing. But
yeah. If rehashing is what's best for the game, though, it's got to happen in certain circumstances. And I don't think, right, I'm not saying Brood War's, you know, like StarCraft 2 needs to turn back into Brood War again. But, you know, maybe they could have the units that are added to the game be a combination between new units and old units brought back. People would love that. Like, you can't tell me that there would be a single, like, player out there that wouldn't think it was really cool if Lurkers and Vultures were put back in StarCraft. Like, no one. Also, if I only had 10 seconds to talk with Dustin Browder, I would tell him that he's an idiot for removing the carrier.
It is. It's an iconic unit, most certainly. And it's a shame that it doesn't get play. I mean, the main reasons, of course, being that you can't get the detection, and it's too dangerous to go to, you know, what is it, Fleet Beacon that early, and it's a shame that the mother cruiser,
the mother cruiser,
the mother of all cruisers is leaving us.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think it's odd that Blizzard chose to remove it, because they spent all this time trying to balance it. And now that people are finally using it, and it seems mildly balanced, and dare I say, mildly useful, now they're choosing to get rid of it? I really don't understand that decision on a very fundamental level.
Yeah. It's just, there's so much we're all concerned about. I'm just kind of almost like, all right, let's just give us the damn game. I want to see what this is like. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, nonetheless, I'm still excited for the damn thing. Bramlade asks, why did you choose Terran, and what race and unit gives you the most trouble?
Okay, so...
Besides, Terran's awesome.
I chose Terran because Terran is very positional. And that's my style of play, for sure. I think Terran is unfortunately less positional in StarCraft 2 than it was in Brood War. I think it's probably better for the game, but it certainly is less advantageous for me. The unit that I have the most trouble with is undoubtedly Banelings. I absolutely cannot stand Banelings. They're definitely the unit that I have the most trouble with, and everyone on our CSL team knew it. There are a lot of Zergs. So I spent a lot of time dealing with ridiculous Baneling busts that shouldn't work. And like when you're really good and you have the APM and the unit control to deal with it, right? Like Bio, even like Mass Marine counters Banelings hardcore. But I am not skilled enough for that to be the case.
Right.
And everyone on our team recognized that.
So just like, oh, open season. Time to have fun with
Exactly.
Banelings. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel like I just want to hug you and then crack a beer and just hang out and talk about my hatred of Banelings. That's pretty much... I could do a 2-hour episode about how much I hate Banelings.
I'll leave for a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Multitasking, right, is what I have the most problem with. So
Yeah.
whether that be dealing with harass or you know, whether it be splitting Marines or whatever, that's the difficult part for me. And it's definitely something that I have to work on.
Yeah. Shadow Wisp asks, what form of cheese do you hate the most? For example, proxy racks, cannon rush, etc.
You want to take a guess based on my last answer?
Baneling bust?
Baneling busts. Baneling all-ins. I cannot stand it.
Yeah. Oh, they suck. Hipster writes in, he says, what is something that you struggle with in-game? Mute harass, splitting, cloning, etc. So I guess we kind of covered you have an issue splitting Marines. Is there anything else that just like is...
I guess I'd say instead of saying like splitting Marines, I guess I'd say multitasking in general is really
in
important.
general? Okay, so kind of going back to the beginning of what you're kind of working on. Do you suffer from a fear of the ladder?
So yes and no. I have trouble laddering when I don't feel like I'm prepared for it ahead of time. And it was really tough when I was in school because I didn't have very much time to play all the time. And so, like, I only had enough time to be prepared. And then I wouldn't have any more time to play ladder. And so it's been nice, right, to have a Smurf account and stuff like that because I feel much more comfortable playing. So that's been really helpful. These past few months for me, it's been a lot of planning and, work to make sure that my trip runs smoothly. And hopefully in the next few weeks here, at least for a while, things will calm down for the first time during the trip. And I'll have a chance to actually sit down and play. So that'll be really helpful, I think, in terms of like my willingness to ladder.
Yeah. Venerak asks, what do you do when you get frustrated / bummed from losing in the ladder? Chuck your keyboard, punch your friend, I don't know.
So there's a big difference between what I should be doing, which I recognize, and what I do.
Isn't that the story with everyone who has ever picked up StarCraft 2?
Probably. So, like, what I should be doing, right, is when I get angry, I should stop for 10 minutes. I should go do something else. I should come back once I'm calm, watch the replay, and then go back to playing. Don't stop for the whole day. Don't stop playing StarCraft or practicing, but take 10 minutes to clear my head before I go back to it again. And I don't do that enough. So that's something that I need to work on. It's something that I've been doing this past week. I've been making an effort to do this past week, and it's helped.
That's something I don't think we've touched on this show very often, or if at all, is to not only keep a level head while playing, but while you're analyzing your replays. If you just dive into your replay in pissed off loser mode, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Exactly.
It's going to be like, oh, look at this jackass. Oh, look at that Bailey bus. He's just cheap. Ah.
My problem is, I'm like, I'll analyze when I get that one win. Once I'm done with it, I'm fine. Then I'll analyze.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like editing a paper, right? It's like you can't like write a paper, give it to someone, have them make changes, and then hand it right back to you, because you're going to look at their changes and you're going to go, but I wrote it that way for a reason. Like I chose to write it that way. Of course I think it's the best way to do it. None of your changes are any good. But like if you give it to them and then you come back a week later and you look at the changes that they made and you go, oh, yeah, that's actually a lot better than what I wrote. You know, that was a big mistake. I don't know why I wrote it that way. Like, this is much better.
Oh, I played a 1v1 versus Hipster the other night, who dropped me to death, basically. And, oh, man, like, he had the best advice in the world for me after it was done. He was like, man, you know, you weren't focusing on which tech you were going to do. And I'm just like, yep, okay, all right, thank you. You're, all right, good for you. But great advice all the same. Thank you, Hipster. I appreciate it now, in the future.
Yasada asks, if you could play one person in a 1v1, who would it be? It can be anyone, from Idra, Boxer, etc., to President Obama or Vladimir Putin. Your choice.
I guess the person that I'd play in a 1v1 is Flash, because he's the best, and I feel like if I had a limited amount of time, he's the person I would learn the most from. I would really like to, more than anything, sit down, play a game against Flash, and have him explain to me, like, what flaws he chose to exploit in my play, and why those were the flaws he chose.
That's very interesting. Out of curiosity, if it was a non-StarCraft person, who would it be?
It's a non-StarCraft person, who would it be?
You could enchant them with, you know, magical, basic gold level. You know, you want to beat them, of course, and have a good time.
It's almost like asking, who would you just want to beat up and win?
Oh, that's an easy answer. Bill O'Reilly.
Somewhere my father is hearing this and getting very angry. The final question.
It's the person who introduced SOPA.
Yeah.
Yes. I think everyone listening to this could agree with that, or anyone who enjoys the internet at all in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
To that person.
Anyone who didn't think Cyber Monday was a big deal.
I'm not saying I wish death upon that person, but it would be a good read in the obituary tomorrow. I'm just saying. And then the final question, I cannot believe we're closing out on this, is what is your favorite sandwich?
One is my peanut butter and jelly, of course.
Peanut butter and jelly.
With the crusts?
Either way, it's fine. I can't, like, live without peanut butter. It's ridiculous. I took peanut butter from the United States and brought it with me. That's how much I like peanut butter.
Is it hard to find? Is it hard to find out there in South Korea?
No, but in Korea it's harder than in Europe. In China, when I was there, it was really hard to find. Peanut butter and jelly were really hard to find in China.
I actually had
Korea.
What's
that?
I was just saying, I actually just had a friend return from teaching English in China, and that's exactly what he said. He's like the food we consider just like, oh, everyone's got it. Hard to find out here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just not a part of, like, Chinese culture. It's interesting.
Yeah. Actually, I think the first restaurant he went to when he got back here was a Taco Bell. He's just like, I want a burrito.
But what do you cut into shapes to let you know you love your kids? Like, you can't just take any sandwich. It's got to be peanut butter and jelly.
Rice balls. That's what you make into shapes. Rice.
Those are quite pliable. You could make sculptures.
It's true. Good rice is good, too.
Yeah, that's very true.
So before we finish out the interview and move on to Ion Esports, I had one question. Who's like, what is the StarCraft victory? Who have you beaten that you just, like, you put that is the brightest, biggest feather in your cap? You're just like, yes, I beat this person.
I beat Jeff in a game in practice once when he was playing Zerg, I think. I don't know. I really enjoyed that. I don't know. I've beaten some of the like Masters players on my college's CSL team before. One of them who's now on TG, so that's kind of fun. I don't know. That's about it.
Huh.
Those are awesome feathers, though.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
beat In Control. Like, hey Matt, what'd you do today? Oh, nothing much. Just beat frickin' In Control.
We also had some questions floating around in the chat room. So there's of course a 15-second delay, but if you're willing to take a couple more,
Absolutely. Fire
awesome.
away.
Go ahead and type those up, and we will wait while this 15-second delay goes.
Yep. To the podcast audience, this might be edited out, or we might just leave it in because we're lazy. So. Okay.
What part of the Midwest? What's that in reference to?
What part of the Midwest? I'm not sure what that's in reference to either.
What part of the Midwest am I from? Minnesota.
Well, there you go. Octane Pro asks, what race will you be playing in Heart of the Swarm? Will you be swapping, or will you be sticking with the good old Terran?
Gonna be sticking with Terran. Although I'm disappointed with some of the new units, I'm not sure that it's going to look much like what it does now. But even if it did, I kind of like the idea of Terran being a little bit more emu friendly.
Such a biased question. Ask Garrett. What?
That's because you're ignoring the pony questions.
Oh,
I don't support these things.
I don't either, so I'm glad you don't.
Well, thank you. Much like the guy who created SOPA, I wish the pony thread in the StarCast forums would die.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
So, here's a good one that I'm surprised didn't come up. What is your favorite Terran build?
My favorite Terran build? Let's see. It's either 2-port Banshee or 3 racks, because they're so goddamn cheesy. And I don't do either of them very often anymore. But they're like those guilty pleasures. They're like that piece of cheesecake you see in the Weight Watchers commercial. You know, like... where they're like, they really, really want it, but they can't have it.
That's... Again, crack a beer for you, sir. 3 racks is my favorite, too. Do you prefer mech or bio in TBT and TBZ?
That's a hard question. I have a love-hate relationship with mech. I really like sitting back and not being aggressive, but I'm worse when I do that. So, I don't know. I've been playing a lot more with bio in TBT, like Marine Marauder with just a few tanks. And I'm really starting to like that. But I really like the idea of being able to sit like on your ass in your base, defend well, and then move out with an army that like Zerg can throw 200 armies at and not do any damage to it. Like, that is a really attractive strategy to me. The only like person that I've ever seen do it successfully, like in major games, is probably DeMuslim. I've seen him play games granted on maps that are, really good for that, like Shack. But he'll literally not attack the entire game, and the first time that he moves out is when he's 200. And I think that's really cool. Or the way that Squirtle, was it Squirtle? Maybe, I think it was Squirtle, in those GSTL matches. Squirtle that Protoss player? I think he is. Well, whatever. Point was, the strategy is that you fast expand, you defend the pressure, and then you literally sit on 2 bases. And because you're so safe as Protoss on 2 bases, you can make whatever goddamn unit composition you want. So it'll be something ridiculous like Carrier, Colossus, Void Ray, Mothership, Storm, Archon. And then they'll move out when they're maxed. And the Zerg will have 1 billion bases. And it just won't matter.
Yeah.
Because the Zerg can send 10 200 armies one after another at the Protoss army, and the Protoss army still won't be dead. And even though the Protoss was only on 2 bases, he's just going to keep, like, taking bases one by one until the game is over. Until he's at Zerg advantage. I think that is really freaking cool.
You like to see your enemies driven before you.
Yes.
So very awesome. Well, I guess that does it for questions. I can't see too many serious ones that are particularly interesting.
One interesting here from Fink, and he says, if you could have a unit from the Zerg or Protoss to add to the Terran, what would it be?
Oh man. Banelings.
I'll see your banelings and race you banelings.
Exactly. Man, what I wouldn't give to be able to build as many banelings as Damaga does. Just kill shit by A-moving. They are the single most A-move friendly unit in the game. By far.
Oh, yeah. And then they took away the thing where they automatically attack buildings. And it's just...
Right?
It's even worse. It's so much worse.
By the way, Fink is my aunt. That's who that is.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
She's apparently watching right now.
Well, very sweet. Well, all right. And everything else is about my haircut. Yes, we know. I had long hair and I cut it off. Congratulations. So, well, very sweet. Well, that does it for the formal interview. Let's talk about all of the freaking drama this weekend. Ion Esports.
From StarCast, this is Eye on Esports.
Welcome to Ion Esports for episode 82. This week, well, I guess we could call it. The slow season is starting for StarCraft 2. We didn't have any. I guess we had World Cyber Games, but in terms of the grand scheme of things, it's not as well known or as watched, as your MLGs, your DreamHacks, your GSLs.
Yeah, and it's clear the pro players and the casters are checking out for the holidays.
Yeah. If anyone listened to episode 60 of State of the Game, you want to talk about checking out hardcore.
Yeah.
Wow. I
asked Jeff for a lesson, and he said, "I'll get back to you the third week in January."
Yeah. So if anyone hasn't gone and watched the 4.5-hour extravaganza that was the last State of the Game of the year, I recommend it. But oh man, watch it in video form because some of the stuff just didn't translate to audio at all. I listened to it today via podcast, and I was just like, what the hell is going on?
Especially the Tequila 6-shooter. That was pretty awesome. The Tequila revolver was badass.
Yeah. Anyways, this week in esports, TLO tweeted on his Twitter, he's going to Korea, folks. And I will quote it for you as soon as it loads. And
it just says, next year I'm going back to Korea, and I will go guerrilla mode.
Guerrilla mode with Liquid Jinro.
I hope it's while I'm here.
Oh, that'd be so badass. First time I saw TLO was at the 2010 BlizzCon at the Team Liquid after party, and they didn't have one this year, which sucked. But and he was wearing a suit. He looked like the biggest baller I've ever seen. Oh, it was awesome.
He has an amazing sense of fashion.
Yes, he does, as the Team Liquid documentary says. Anyways, so let's talk about the World Cyber Games 2011. And much like I had to mention, full disclosure, during DreamHack, I had to come full disclosure and say I missed that whole damn thing about Thanksgiving. It's getting close to Christmas, and I've been so involved with work and family that I missed this entire thing. Did either of you catch the World Cyber Games? Or Matt, did you go to it? I know you've been making your rounds just around the world.
Yeah, we were at WCG. We had a good time in Busan. I don't know. I was a little disappointed with the way that the event was run, but the games were great. What few of them were actually on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, I kept, because I have Reddit on my phone and Twitter, and that's how I usually follow things when I'm not watching it. And Reddit was just stream complaining, like, oh my god, it's like a VCR. Ah. But that's really all I took away from it. That and all of the aftermath with Naniwa and whatnot, which we'll talk about. But for our listeners who maybe didn't watch it or maybe are not familiar with the World Saber Games, it is the format was on the group stage. It was a best of one round robin, and the top 2 players advanced. And then the playoffs was a 16-player single elimination bracket. All rounds were best of 3. So the results were MVP, which I'm sure Matt was quite excited about. Took first place, taking home $20,000. Second place went to I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Zygua. Jigua, a Chinese Zerg player. He took home $5,000, and we've never talked about him before. But he's also a former Warcraft 3 player. He plays for Invictus Gaming, which is apparently a very new Chinese team. They were founded, I guess, this past August. Jigua went 6-0 in his group at WCG. He then continued to win the next 3 matchups until the finals, where he was eventually knocked out by this total scrub player. No one really knows about him, MVP, total unknown. And then third place was taken by Kaz, who plays Terran. He took home $2,000. Once again, another player we've really never talked about on the show. He's from the Ukraine. It was also a former Warcraft 3 player. Plays for Team Empire, a Russian esports organization. And actually, Naniwa was a part of Team Empire before he joined Team Dignitas, which is something I didn't know, and I thought was an interesting fact. And then, Dignitas didn't renew Naniwa's contract, and I'm noticing a pattern here with Naniwa. So Razor threw out day-by-day videos on Team Liquid, and these are really cool if you want to catch up on some of the action at WCG. There's a link to that in the show notes. Kyle, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, Matt, you were at this yourself, and you kind of hinted there that you were unhappy with some of the staging, or what was going on?
Yeah, well, okay, so, here's the issue. WCG, for the longest time, was, the end-all, be-all of Western esports, right? And some of the events have been really huge. WCG 2006 was massive, right? And so, this was supposed to be WCG's big return to Korea, but it really was a small event, in comparison. There were 300 chairs in the audience. That's the extent of things. And it was, in one small hall. It was Gamescom, right, was 5 or 6 big halls the size of maybe each maybe even a little bit bigger than the hall that WCG was in.
Wow.
Right? WCG was a very small affair this year. And I don't know. It didn't feel like it was as exciting as WCG has been in the past, watching it with Brood War and stuff. I don't know. I was a little disappointed by the event. And I guess I heard from other people, and I heard from watching live on 3 that the stream quality apparently wasn't very good. I guess it was still being streamed in 4:3, right, which is a symptom of OGN, doing the streaming, because they don't, they don't broadcast on television in HD. And so all they did, right, was they took their television stream and they put it online. And I guess you can't blame them, right? Because in order to change that, right, they'd have to shoot the entire thing in HD, and then they would have to re-encode everything into 4:3 SD in order to put it on TV. Reduce the quality drastically, and then have 2 separate streams going out. That's a lot of work, right?
And it's
I think eventually
free. So they have to be thinking, we're doing this bonus anyway. What are you guys complaining about? But in this age of the internet.
Right. So, and that's the issue, right, is that, WCG is just as good as it's always been. But the problem is now that esports has come a long way since WCG was wonderful. And now WCG, because they haven't changed, isn't that great anymore. WCG is what it was in 2004, 2005, and in 2008, 2009. There were all these problems. Like that's all it is now, and they haven't changed with the times. I think, Marcus put it really well on Live on 3. He said, I don't think WCG's changed with the times, and I really hope that they do, because I love WCG and I really don't want to see it die. But that's what it looks like right now.
That explains so much, because Artosis was tweeting pictures of it, and it really had this odd sort of half magical feel, like I'd gone back to Disneyland and everything wasn't as great as I thought it was anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. It was odd because, I have watched WCGs, when I was younger, and I thought that they were the coolest shit ever. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, this isn't as cool as I remember it.
I can see the strings moving the pirates. What is this?
Yeah, exactly, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
Whatever. It's the way it goes. We had a good time anyways.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, that's cool. So let's talk about the Blizzard Cup scandal. God, it feels like this has almost been beaten with a dead horse this week, but we haven't talked about it yet, so we'll get everyone's opinions. So, Naniwa versus Nesty.
Yes.
So, oh God,
I'll take it away. So
go ahead, Kyle.
So what happened was the Blizzard Cup, of course, to be the best of the best, battling it out for your entertainment, the viewer, the paying viewer at that. So the tournament is arranged in such a way that a match comes up where the 0-3 Nesty is about to battle the 0-3 Naniwa, which has absolutely no effect on the outcomes of any games, really any prize money. It's just a game between two people who have been feuding for a while. Well, Naniwa, who is feeling very emotional in his booth, decides to probe rush, I think with 7 probes, creating no more, into Nesty's base. Of course, we have to once again bring up that Nesty is, while still quite young, like the grandpa of esports. You do not disrespect your elder Nesty. And so this
especially on the home turf.
Yes.
This was in South Korea, for those of you who weren't aware.
So this turned into a pretty big scandal.
Yeah, it did. So there was a lot of things that came out of this. Quantic Gaming, the team that Naniwa plays for, tweeted to the fans, Nani feels sorry and didn't mean to offend, but found himself in an awkward situation. Imagine how his probes felt. Which I got a hell of a chuckle out of. As we've spoken on previous episodes, everyone's kind of aware of my sense on Naniwa. I kind of think he's an asshole. I'm not a big fan. But he is a good player. He's a damn good player. And I kind of, as much as I'm kind of like, okay, he's getting what he deserves, but at the same time I'm kind of like, all right, it's kind of cool his team's still backing him up instead of like every other team just being like, oh, we're sick of your shit, off to another team with you. Instead, they awesome tweet joke. I laughed my butt off when I saw this.
Now today, the official statement has come out from the team saying that they want to make it clear that we do not condone Naniwa's actions during this match against Nesty. We respect and understand GOM TV's decision in this, and so on and so forth. Basically, they go on to say that, well, GOM TV, at first it looked like they had stolen away Naniwa's Code S spot from him because of this event, using this turmoil as the excuse to get rid of him because Nesty's been having problems with him, and they just want this upstart foreigner kid gone. First of all, they've said that if it was a Korean player, this would have been much harsher, more of like a you know better. You know better than Naniwa did what we'd do to you if you mess this up. So, secondly, there was all these other the Code S spots floating in the ether at the moment. Invites had been given out, but no one had really accepted yet, or we're not quite sure. Idra had already been offered one. Do you know what happened, Matt?
Yeah, okay, so let me start by saying, I saw Naniwa do it, right? And he walked out of his booth, and he clearly had no idea the implications of what he had done. when he was in the booth, he was very upset. You have to understand, like, Naniwa isn't a jerk, but he's very hard on himself, and he cares about his own success a lot. He cares about his performance to a fault, right? And not for the same reasons that other players do. A lot of players, especially, you hear this all the time from the Korean players. They want to show good games to the fans, right? They want to make their fans and their friends and their family proud. Naniwa was playing those games and trying his best for Naniwa, because Naniwa holds himself to high standards. Not because he's self-motivated, right? Not because, he wants to prove anyone else wrong, or because he wants to inspire other people or whatever, or make anyone else happy or entertain anyone. He's doing it because he has a drive to do it. So when he lost those 3 games, you can imagine how embarrassed he was, especially after being given such a privilege.
Yeah.
And especially, like, on such a stage, right? Like, and so he sat down in that booth. He built 2 probes, decided he didn't want to play the game. A-moved the probes, put his head in his hands, sat there, watched the probes die, typed GG, walked out of the booth. I think there are some problems on both sides, right? Obviously what Naniwa did was unprofessional, uncalled for, and a sign of his immaturity. Not just as a player, but as a person.
Right.
And I think, hopefully, right, judging from his latest statement, this will change that, or has already begun to change that view.
Absolutely.
I think his view, was a little simplistic prior to this incident, and I think now he has a better understanding of esports and why everyone is doing what they do. That's great. My problem, right, is that I feel like GOMTV has stooped to the same level, and that MLG is an unwitting victim. Because now, right, based on what MLG has said and based on what GOMTV has said, here's how things went down. So GOMTV signed a contract with MLG that said, you guys can give a Code S seed to the highest ranking player at the tournament who hasn't already qualified for GSL. Right. And that player at MLG Providence was Naniwa. And they made it very clear that this included MLG Providence, even though it wasn't a pro circuit tournament, contrary to what people have said. So the issue, right, is that then GOMTV admits that Naniwa didn't break any rules, but they're taking the spot from him. Now, it's one thing if the deal that MLG and GOMTV had made with each other, and then the agreement that Naniwa agreed to, right, when he accepted the prize, was that he would be in the running for a Code S spot, and the understanding was that he would probably get it. Like, then it makes sense. GOMTV doesn't want Naniwa to represent their organization.
Yeah.
Totally cool not to give him the spot. But if the, agreement says that he gets the spot, and then he didn't violate any rules and he took the spot, then at least from a legal standpoint, right, within the United States, that's considered a bait and switch.
Right.
And that's not acceptable, not even legally. So, and it sounds like that's what the case is here, right? So Naniwa was given a Code S spot and then it was taken from him, even though he didn't violate any rules, by GOMTV's own admission. And that worries me a little bit. That makes me disappointed in GOM TV, and it makes me particularly disappointed in Mr. Che. And I'm very sad because I think they got caught up in Naniwa's drama, right? They reacted the same way that Naniwa did to losing those 3 games. Only they did it on an even larger scale, and on a scale that actually matters in the grand scheme of things as far as tournaments go.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
I remember when that news broke about the GSL Code S fiasco. I remember thinking to myself like, wow, I was never the biggest Naniwa fan, but now I'm just like, now I'm mad at both of them. I'm like, now you're both being jackasses. Like,
yeah, exactly. Right, I feel bad then for MLG because they sort of got caught up in this thing that had nothing to do with them. And I feel like tough questions have to be asked of them because they, although this technically wasn't their doing, or at least not directly, right, I think they really should have pressured GOM TV to come through on their end of the bargain, and I don't feel like they did that.
Yeah, you don't know if they're necessarily done talking with them either, because we just today got an official statement from Sundance on Reddit of all places.
Yeah, they're done talking about it, I think, probably, at least. Or if they're not done talking about it, they've at least moved on from the actual decision itself. I didn't think GOM would have announced that if they had any intention of going back on it. That's just not the way the Korean scene generally works.
So do you think they'll still be, supporting the exchange program come 2012?
I don't think so. If you've read the recent official statement from them, they basically said that, well, wasn't it happy that our schedules just happened to match up last season, that we got to do MLGs and we got to send players over there and we got to switch back and forth. Next season, GOM TV is going to be really, really busy. We don't know if we're going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the exchange program will continue. It certainly won't happen in its current form. There may be some sort of exchange, I don't know, but I have to assume that if there isn't bad blood between the two organizations after this, that there's at least some, I don't know, if I were Sundance, I would at least be wary and suspicious, because judging from their statement, right, and especially what Slasher said then on Fuck Slasher this evening, or morning my time,
yeah,
it seemed to come as a surprise to them. Basically, right, what they said is that, like, according to, like, we weren't informed ahead of time when they decided to make this change. But technically the contract says they don't have to inform us. Right, but it puts MLG... Yeah, but it puts MLG, right, in a really awkward position now, because now people are going to doubt every time they say that the player is going to get a seed or whatever as part of an exchange program, people are going to wonder whether that's actually the case.
Yeah, it kind of betrays a professional trust.
Right, exactly. And so right, that's why I called in to Fuck Slasher, yesterday's F Slasher, and I asked him, because it was clearly the question, right, there was the elephant in the room, the question no one was willing to ask, and the question that MLG was desperately hoping no one would ask, which is, what about the people who competed in Providence wanting to get a Code S seed? Would they still have competed and put in all the time and work if they had known that the Code S seed wasn't a guarantee? But I think Slasher, avoided my question like I talked about earlier, and he sort of apologized today for avoiding people's questions on the issue, because he said he was told specifically not to talk about it, and I can understand that from MLG's perspective, especially because they were caught unaware by GOM TV's mistake, right? They don't want to go even further by putting their own foot in their mouth, even when, their disappointment, in everything that's happened is completely genuine. Like, you still, after that sort of experience, are going to be wary, and I can understand that. I think they should be, wary of people trying to bait them into saying things that shouldn't be said. But today, basically, what Slasher said is we had no idea that they were going to do what they did, and change the whole format of GSL and the scheduling stuff. So, whether or not there'll be a exchange program next year, I have to wonder if MLG thought there was going to be an exchange program next year, or at least assumed that there would be before this announcement about the schedule change came out of the blue to everyone. Right? It's what JP's been talking about for months, and what Bitter's been talking about for months, and what Rotterdam and everyone else has been talking about for months, which is tournaments need to start coordinating schedules with each other, or you're going to run into big problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It came down to, sadly, a big bureaucracy move on that, and everyone's kind of arguing back and forth as to what really happened. The official statements are out. We have them linked in the show notes if you want to check those out. Basically, saying once again that there were 2 Codes spots available, and MLG was part of this exchange, but there were also other things going on. At any rate, Idra's now got a Codes spot. When he just gave an interview 3 days ago that he was like, maybe I won't hang out that long in Korea. I'm really just here to train. Well, now he's here to play in Codes. So it'll be interesting to see how this advances down the road.
That does excite me, as I'm sure it does many Idra fans. So,
Me included.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, though, I mean, Kyle and Matt, but just what was your opinion just on Naniwa? Just your personal opinion. Do you think he should have lost the Codes spot, or do you think it wasn't that big of a deal?
I think that he has a job, and as an entertainer at that, I mean, if a juggler walks out on stage and throws his balls on the ground and walks away, that's not a show. So I feel like the punishment is too severe. I feel he should have been given what they did with the kid who, I don't remember his name, but there was the one we talked about a couple shows ago where the one kid was teams with the guy who was fighting. He was like, let's go to a game 3. We'll just do this. And it was an immature move, and they suspended him for a month. I think a suspension would have been a better show of welcoming, because this is his first big deal in Korea. So,
yeah, here's the issue. I think that what GOM TV did is wrong, right, regardless of how bad whatever Naniwa did or didn't do is. I have 2 problems, though, right, with what you said, Kyle. The first is that I think Slasher's right when he raises, despite what Doa would say. I think it's really hard to judge the difference between someone giving up, and someone throwing a match, or not doing their best and throwing a match. I mean, he makes a good point when he says, Bit by Bit Prime did a lot of SCV all-ins. No one thinks that that's going to have a higher win rate, than strong, stable play. Do we ban Bit by Bit Prime for not giving it his all? I don't know. Maybe some of these players that Tasteless and Artosis are praising really aren't playing that well, or they're not playing their best, and Tasteless and Artosis are hyping it. How do you know? How do you know the difference? How do you judge? What if Naniwa actually, clearly, right, in this case he didn't because of context. But I don't know that you can rely on context all the time to make those sorts of decisions.
Yeah, there's no rule saying you can't do that.
Right, exactly. He didn't F10 out and throw them. It's not like he was in a position to win and then was like, I don't care about this game. Nesty, you can have the win. I'm leaving.
Not at all. That was one of the worst things about the tournament. was that there were these pointless matches, most certainly.
Yeah,
Right.
which is what a lot of people have been defaulting to is, well, this shouldn't have been a scenario to begin with. The tournament shouldn't have been designed in a way where there are useless matches. And to that, I agree completely. But there's also the fact that, well, it did happen, and now we have to talk about this crap.
Right, not surprisingly, right, that was Idra's big tweet, right, that caused all that controversy.
Yeah.
But, like...
Idra? Controversy? What?
Yeah, what? Greg creates all sorts of interesting controversy of his own.
Yeah.
Another story for another day, though. The second thing, though, that I have a problem with, or that I'm conflicted about, let's say, is this idea that players are entertainers. Because on some level, I love esports, and I want to see it succeed. But I wonder if there are times where the collective success of esports is at odds with a person's competitive success.
Hmm.
And I'm really conflicted about like whether someone should choose one over the other and how that decision should be made, right? You see In Control, who gives his all to make the community better, which is incidentally why it makes me sick to my stomach every time I see someone criticize him for not being as good of a player as In Control would like to be.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
absolutely.
I don't think we've ever talked about that here, but God, so much of the trolling I see on live streams is exactly that. And it's just like, shut up, you idiot children.
It's so sad. Then he has to counteract himself every time he makes a tweet about it because all the other fans, they're just, it's like, they're just like a bunch of people waiting to be insulted. They're like, oh, did you insult me? He's like, no. Just calm down, everyone. It's okay.
Jeff is...
It's a mess.
Yeah, well, anyways, Jeff's a big teddy bear, and it's not always good for him. He was, I don't know, I think he was better at handling it when he was, sort of off camera and off the books about it, where he was willing to say whatever came to his mind rather than filtering it first. But that's my opinion.
I think one of the best there's a lot of StarCraft programming out there, and I think the best StarCraft programming, if I could have any show in the world, would just be In Control in a pit, and you just take trolls and throw them into the pit with him. Because I just want to watch him snap these little shits in half.
Yeah, you know what I would love even more than that is if you made it an In Control hotbid tag team, and the other person would tag the troll on as the fight was going on.
Yeah, you poke them and crap. Like, you rile up the bull before you let him go, essentially.
I would pay to see that on television. That could be like one of those premium, like, movie channels.
or you're, like the one-night events for, like, boxing matches and stuff like that.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's too good to have it only be one night.
Tonight, after House, In Control.
Versus
right?
trolls.
Versus trolls. Yeah. Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but anyways, the point is like, I think there's something to be said, right, for the philosophy that if Naniwa didn't hold himself, he certainly represented to a lot of people, which is, I might be an asshole, but I'm so good at this game that I demand your respect, because I'm better than anyone else in the world at this game. And I think there's something to be said for the person who doesn't care about their image because all they care about is being the best at it. And that's how passionate they are about this competitive activity. On a certain level, I think that's cool. I think that's really neat. It's sort of, I think it's sort of the attitude that Flash had at the beginning, where he was winning a lot of games and was cheesing a lot. And I think he matured over time, right? And I think Naniwa will too. And I think that there's some immaturity involved in thinking that way. But I think there's something to be said for that as well. And I'm really conflicted, like I said, about what happens when esports and image are in conflict with results. But it's the reason why Naniwa left. Why he said he left. Why he said he left his previous team, right, and went to Quantic, because he didn't feel like results were being valued as the most important thing, right? He said they were treating it as if Cat's getting 5,000 viewers on his stream was, an equal accomplishment, to taking second at MLG. And although from a monetary standpoint and a publicity standpoint, that might very well be true, is that team really, can we really say they have their head in the game? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
There's got to be some balance. I just don't know where that balance is. Maybe Complexity's right. Maybe EG's right. They're sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? They allow Idra to say a lot of stuff whenever he wants, without many consequences, and they value their players because of results, right? And even Jeff, who is a big community figure, because he's in that environment, really still wants results.
But you also, if you want to talk about kind of maturing as a player and a personality, I think Idra is the poster child for kind of growth, because he's, in the past year, made giant strides in kind of his own personal, struggles or growth. Because he used to be so much worse.
And there was a wonderful post by one of his teammates today that said, and it was his job to do that. And the team cannot say, Idra, grow up right now. No, they let him have that spot. When he really stepped out of line, they corrected him. But it is the player's job to do these things, and not even GOM TV's job to reprimand Naniwa for this activity. So it's an interesting world. The internet just brings a whole new scope to a sport trying to get going, because you have the anonymity, the anonymousness of it.
Anonymity. Yeah, you're correct.
Anonymity brings out the best and the worst in people.
Yeah, well, and that just shows in forum posts. You see just a complete wash of all the different colors of the rainbow. We love you so much, keep doing what you're doing. And then right below that will be, I hate you for everything. And the most offensive thing you've ever read, banned right below that.
I hate your free show. I want 5 minutes of my life back. That's always the best thing. But anyways,
I should say one more thing before we move on. Naniwa is not a jerk. Naniwa is a sarcastic person, and Naniwa doesn't always have concern, or the concern that he should, for the feelings of others. But I've gotten the chance to talk with him before, and if there's one thing he's not, it's a jerk.
That is awesome to hear.
That is very good to hear, because I was never a huge fan. Oddly enough, the events of the last few days have made me kind of rethink that. I actually like him more through some bizarre thing. That's just because everything seemed to turn on its head once I heard what GOM did, and so I look forward to seeing where he goes from here. I'll definitely say that, because he is so damn good. I hope he becomes easier to like, I guess is the word. I want to like him, but in the past he's done so many things where I'm just like, come on. But not to get too wishy-washy. So, anyways, we did mention earlier we have a new segment we'll be starting. We will have a drop for it, but currently we don't have a funny little bumper to play. It's called the Natural Expansion. And Kyle, why don't you go ahead? You have a site you want to bump, you want to pimp.
Absolutely. So this is going to be looking for unknown sites that are promoting StarCraft across the interwebs. Of course, email us. Title the email Natural Expansion if you are doing a cool little project like some of these sites. Now, Nibbits has been going on for quite some time. Oh no, that's an advertisement rolling just for me because I clicked the website. I was so confused there. Yeah, I know, right? Particularly when you're doing a show. At any rate, this website is basically all around custom maps. Something that doesn't get a lot of hype, and we certainly know it's not well suited on the Battle.net itself, because if you're looking for what's hot, well, what you're going to find is what was hot, and it continued to be hot for the past 5 months, like Nexus Wars, like Hero Attack. You're not going to see anything new come out of there. But this actually has popular maps. Some of them are just popular redone maps, completely new maps that people have made up. I mean, you got like Big Game Hunters on here. Someone went through with the entire editor and made all of the original game, the Terran campaign anyway, for
badass
campaign. It's quite incredible that someone took the time to do this. Has nothing but great ratings on this site. Very cool. That was done by maker Rebel Yell. Oh no, contributor Mag, and it's called Rebel Yell, but that's the entire StarCraft 1 campaign for Terran that they did there. Also has a bunch of cool little graphs like this one here, where it is just the graph of what units you can max over time. Of course, Zerglings are ridiculously high, followed by Terrans, and it only goes up to the 6-minute mark, so you don't see too many mass things beyond that. The next highest thing would be Zealots, actually, so the beginning units. But it's cool that a site like this that hasn't gotten any praise has so many cool downloads and custom games.
Oh, very cool. Once again, it's sc2.nibbits.com. Make sure you put that sc2 dot in front or you're not going to get there.
Oh, I get it. Okay, so sc.nibbits has been around for quite a while, I believe. sc2.nibbits, I think, is newer.
Oh, absolutely. And they have Warcraft 3 maps on here. I mean, well, Diablo really didn't have an editor, but it's clear they've been around for a while and have been forgotten.
Yeah, SC Nibbits, I think, has been around for quite some time, if I remember correctly. Because I think I've seen the website before. But yeah, SC2 Nibbits, I think, is pretty new.
Oh, very cool. I know one of our biggest complaints when the game launched was the kind of the poor state of the custom map list and how to find them. So it's kind of cool that some websites out there kind of doing it for us.
I think that's a complaint that can still be made a bit.
Oh, yes, it's still terrible. And they promised us the map store. They said it was going to be like a sleek Apple-like experience. You can go find maps from different blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, we're just going to give you a list that looks like it was designed for user interfaces in the late 90s. Congratulations. Here you go. Have fun.
Now, they're waiting for Diablo 3, clearly. They've been talking about the Blizzard Bucks or Bank, or where you have like a wallet system on there that can also store the money you make from selling items in Diablo 3. So they probably want to move it all in one big wave, but it's a shame it's taken so long to come out.
Yeah, it has. So, anyways, well, very cool. That is our new segment, The Natural Expansion. It is time for the final segment of the show, emails.
Incoming transmission.
Patching you through. The Yamato is loaded, and so am I.
Well, welcome to emails. I still laugh at that dumbass intro every week. Thank you, Kyle, so much for editing that.
You're welcome.
Anyways, this is where we play your community segments. We take your calls and we answer your emails. First up this week for community segments is King Octavius, and he is back with science fiction in my StarCraft.
Hey everyone, this is King Octavius with Science Fiction in my StarCraft. There are a few unit quotes that I still haven't yet gotten to in SF and my SC, and of those, 2 of them from 2 different units are pretty small. So this time we're going to cram 2 into one segment for a double whammy. Not even just a single whammy. We'll start with the Reaper. We've been over his David Bowie quote, but he has another sci-fi one as well.
I ain't got time to bleed.
This is a famous line from Predator, spoken by none other than Jesse Ventura in the role of a Green Beret named Blaine.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
This is a pretty cool line, but it doesn't really mean anything except that he's a badass who doesn't worry about bleeding when he's on a mission. The second quote comes from the battlecruiser captain.
It's a trap!
Hopefully I don't have to tell you what this comes from. This is a famous line from the Mon Calamarian Admiral Akbar in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
It's a trap!
This is almost the only line Akbar has in the entire movie. For whatever reason, it's also extremely memorable. If I was a battlecruiser captain, you can bet I'd be saying that pretty much non-stop. And with that, we're done with this episode of SF and my SC. So, How'd you like the King Octavius double whammy? Not bad, huh? I'll see you next week.
And that segment just makes me want to bust this out. Yeah. Feel the force flow through you, or hatred, or something.
It's pretty sick. Is that one of those like real metal ones?
Yeah, this is one of the best birthday presents any girlfriend ever got me, and she is sitting right over there.
Where did you get it from? Because I saw this website a long time ago, and I always really wanted one.
I don't know. God, Katie got this for me in early college. Where did you get this? Online. The answer is online.
The internet. Good
the
for
internet. It's made by Master Effects, I believe, is the company, so that should help you find it.
That was the website that I had looked at all that time ago, I think, was Master Effects.
Oh, Master Replicas. My bad. Actually, the box is right there. Bing. Master Replicas. So, yeah, they did not sponsor the show, but if you do want a lightsaber, that's where you can go find it. And hanging right over there is my Jedi tunic. So, yeah, super geek. Let's get rid of the awkward silence. Sandman's Modspot coming up next.
Hey StarCast, Sandman here with the Modspot episode 18. Before we start, special thanks to Buddha, Psych, and Naruto for testing this map with me. And, yeah, that's it. I find out what colleges I got into early on the 15th, so I'm hyped out. Let's do this. Today's mod is a game called Macro Micro, brought to us by a gentleman named Blackwaltz. In case you can't tell from the title, this game is about macro and micro. It is a 1v1 that is actually a 2v2. I'm pretty sure at this point Garrett is making his weird eyebrows up at the camera motion. But don't worry, I'll answer your question without bringing the gingerbread man from Shrek in. Macro Micro takes its title game mechanics and turns them into separate jobs. At the beginning of the game, players are placed in a lobby where they can select whether they want to observe or play. They also can select their racial preference and whether they want to macro, micro, or just don't care. Players can either choose to be paired up randomly or can form a team with another player, which is nice because that means you can bring friends. When the actual game begins, one player is tasked with building up the economies/unit producing structures, and the other one is tasked with killing things really, really well. This goes on until one team can't take the pressure and just GG's out. Although the one that I play tested was on Shattered Temple, I'm sure you can find other ones on different maps. Macro Micro is a fun new take on the game that everybody loves, StarCraft 2. It's really fun, it's nice, it's exciting. When you have good players playing, I'm sure that it can actually be a really good exercise. And hey, you know, I think I learned a thing or two from Psych yelling at me to move the freaking siege tanks! Macro Micro gets a 4.5 out of 5. Until next time, this has been Sandman. Here's hoping I didn't put you to sleep. Also, you can email me at modspot@yahoo.com or check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/sc2modspot. P.S. Kyle has a pumpkin head and it amuses me immensely.
All right.
I assume he refers to my Facebook picture, which I was going to replace with a tree head, but my Christmas tree is too big.
Yes, it is. Kyle, we didn't talk about your Blizzard tree. You've got a Hydralisk on there. Tyrael is your freaking... in place of your angel. I mean, that's badass.
Yep, I rigged him to have light-up wings. I was so proud of myself. Have Beholders and Megatron and just all sorts of wonderful things on my nerdy Christmas tree.
You've got to do your own community submission then, Kyle, with pictures of this tree and all your stuff, because that sounds too awesome.
I think I've got pictures of those somewhere, but they are so not handy. I'd have to dig through my emails or something. I totally ripped you off too, Kyle. I took the Terra Marine that I bought at BlizzCon and put it in my tree. I've got Thrall in there, the little Lego Thrall that we got at BlizzCon.
Oh, absolutely. This sounds like a pretty fun map, a custom map. I really miss the old team, one base, whatever it was in Brood War. Do you remember that? Where everyone would spawn on a single base. If you had all the races represented, you'd have, like, whoever's the main base would have, like, 3 SCVs. Then the Protoss guy would have 1 probe, and the Zerg guy would have 1 drone. And that was it. You all mined from the same base, shared the same minerals. That was fun.
Yeah, people used to do this same thing in Brood War. I think Flash was really famous because people would have 2 players play against him, one doing the macro and one doing the micro. like in order to simulate opponents for him, and vice versa. When people were practicing to play against Flash, they'd do a 2v1 macro-micro because one person couldn't handle all of the stuff that Flash does.
That is so awesome. I haven't been able to do that with any game since classic Super Smash Bros. Pikachu versus everyone. Represent.
That's how I was with Link. Right. Next is, one of my favorites. We're going to send it on over to Hipster for the Community Action News.
Hello, StarCast listeners, and welcome to the StarCast Community Action News. This week in the forums, the topic of StarCraft versus chess stirred much debate. Shadowist expressed his frustration from his attempts to get to Diamond. Starcasters discussed internet anonymity and shared different resources for maintaining incognito while browsing the web. The StarCast MS Paint Art Contest was announced. The winner will earn himself a commission from the in-house artist Shadowist. The memes and pics thread, My Little Pony, and Skyrim threads still refuse to disappear. StarCraft Pro player TLO will be going to train in Korea. In League of Legends, there is much talk for the new Christmas skins and this week's new champion. Also, there are UI and gameplay changes, as well as a leaked image of an upcoming champion. The Minecrafters are super excited because of the new release of a version of Bucket. Now for the weather with Discorax.
Thanks, Hipster. There's a severe weather warning in effect for this Tuesday. Apparently, a virus of unknown origin has begun turning people into flesh-eating zombies. The National Weather Service, in conjunction with StarCast, advises everyone to join Left 4 Dead Tuesdays in order to control the spread. Don't forget to think healthy thoughts. And that's the weather. Back to you, Hipster.
Thanks, Discorax. This was The Scan with Hipster. Stay classy, StarCast. Gara and Kyle, back to you.
Thank you for that, Hipster. It sounds like he's just going to run out of breath at any given second or drop into his accent. One of the two.
Little guy's trying so hard. Well, it's clear there's no esports coming up because the forecast is about zombies, apparently.
Well, they're starting Left 4 Dead Tuesdays.
Well, I don't know if you saw the MS Paint picture that started, I've just linked you it here on our forums, but that started the MS Paint contest. But I want you to take a look at this void ray that was drawn because it amuses me to no end. It is, when you take MS Paint and put adults drawing, it turns into the youngest 5-year-old drawing, except for perfect circles. Everyone can do perfect circles.
The void ray looks like some kind of gray squid that has like blue pubic hair stuck to the top of it. God. Wow, that is special. Are there more, or is that it?
Well, that's what the contest is hoping to arise, is more MS Paint pictures. And as Disco put it, I love these Zealots' Trogdor arms.
Trogdor arms. Nice. Well, our we had a call in this week to the StarCast line from Vitosai.
Hey, Garrett, Kyle, and Mort. Just because you're in Masters now doesn't mean you can't ever stop by the show anymore. This is Vitosai. I've called in before, and I had a question for you guys this week. I'm a pretty kind of nerdy gamer. My girlfriend thinks I'm a super nerd, but I'm really into sports too. And my favorite football team is the Green Bay Packers, and I'm not on the bandwagon. But if you could compare any professional football team to one of the 3 races, which team would you compare to which race and why? And my 3 are the Packers are Terran, just because they're completely OP, and I know you totally agree with me, Garrett. The Protoss are the Patriots because they're really good, but everybody always forgets about them. And the Zerg are the Carolina Panthers because everybody just stomps all over them, even though they're really good too, and Idra knows all about that. But, yeah, so what are your guys' 3 favorites? Oh, and I play Zerg, actually, so I'm not partial to Terran either. I'm a Zerg player. But, yeah, so what are you guys' 3 favorites? Thanks. And once again, this is Vitosai.
What is this sports talk in my video game show?
I don't know, man. I don't know any teams.
I was about to say, this is not a good question for Kyle, because I watch some football, but I know you don't know shit about football.
I know the Jaguars. What city are they from? They're terrible. I know that much. Jacksonville. I know that my home state of New Mexico, where I grew up, has the Lobos, which are not professional at all. So I don't know anything about that. And well, that's hockey because I live in Chicago. So that's about it. That's my sports knowledge right there.
Well, don't feel bad. We have the Buccaneers, who suck, and well, I've never really been a fan, so I don't really care. I'm a Giants fan. What about you, Matt?
I am a Vikings fan through and through, regardless of how well or poorly they're doing.
That's true.
That's good. That's good. That's how I am with the Giants. I've just always been a fan. I was born on the Super Bowl where they won, and my father's side of the family is all from up north. So that's the reason for that.
Cool. Basically, I'm a fan of anyone that is like going to beat the Packers, pretty much.
You should hang out with my girlfriend. She's a Bears fan, so she hates the Packers. Even though I would agree with Vitosa, I would say currently the Packers would be the Terran. Yeah. Specifically Korean Terran. So, other than that, I don't know. I don't have that much of a knowledge of sports. I do know that I hate the Patriots. So you're saying everyone hates the Protoss? So
I trust his submission.
Yeah, there you go. We trust you, Vitosai. You just dropped a sports ball into a nerd haven. It's like the cantina in Star Wars. We don't serve your kind here. They have to wait outside.
Yeah,
and,
I trust it, but being a Packers fan makes you shady, in my opinion. I don't know.
That's how it is for me in baseball. Everyone hates me because I'm a Yankees fan. So,
like the Terran.
Just like the Terran. Yep, I like the Terran. Oh, all right, let's see. In StarCraft, I play Terran, so everyone hates me. In Warcraft, I played an Elf, so everyone hated me. And in baseball, I like the Yankees, so everyone hates me. I'm just a very hated man.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. Again, runs in the family. It's not just it's not just because they win. When was the last time they took a pennant?
I come from a long line of assholes.
No, screw it. That is the episode title. People won't know if we're talking about Naniwa or Garrett's baseball team. And finally, this week, the last segment we have is Internet Dave's Achievement of the Week.
Hello, StarCast. This is Internet Dave bringing you the second campaign achievement guide of the week. This week, the level is The Outlaws. Okay, so for the first achievement, same as every mission, is to complete all objective. It is called The Outlaws after the level. There are two objectives, the primary being to destroy the Dominion base, which you must do to complete the level, and the secondary to rescue the rebels. Shortly after starting the mission, a rebel base to the southwest will be attacked by a Dominion group of Marines. Taking them out with the rebels units as well as the small force of Marines and medics that you have is very simple. The second achievement is called Cash Reward. The goal: collect all resource pickups on the map. To the north of your main is a large collection of pickups, and then another group of them in the rebel base. The common error here is to not go fully into the rebel base, causing you to miss a few of the pickups, but once you do, that's the second achievement. Really, the first two are super simple, not much difficult. It's still very early in the game. It will get harder as the campaign progresses. Anyway, the final achievement is Be Quick or Be Dead. The goal here is to beat the campaign level on hard in 10 minutes or less. So I decided I'd ask a good friend of mine to help explain this, since I don't play Terran, and it took me forever to get this one, even though it was very simple. Anyway, welcome that lovable Colombian hipster.
So, to win this mission, you must apply the super complicated tactic Terran uses in every single game. Mass Marines. Keep building SUVs, but start building spore racks really fast and get very little gas. Your income should be pretty sick, because there's nothing to invest in at this point in the campaign. Keep spamming Marines and be really active with your army. The more active you are, the more pickups you will have early on, and the better you'll do in the long run. So, to sum it up, be fast on your feet and dispatch the minion troops at the entrance of the rebel outposts quickly to get those reinforcements. In brutal difficulty, watch out for Hellions incoming and the one siege tank at the back of the base. If you're not too good at the game, I recommend getting the achievements on normal or hard difficulty, and then go back to the mission on brutal and take your time and beat the damn thing. The point is, it's really, really easy. Just keep building SCVs and keep spamming the A button.
This has been Internet Dave.
And this was Hipster.
And this has been the Achievement of the Week.
Well, I'm glad I muted myself because I would have been laughing my ass off over that entire call.
Celebrating
Yes,
your A button.
Celebrating my A move to victory. Don't be mad, Kyle. Don't be mad because you literally lost to me making Just Marines once.
Hey, that was one match months ago.
And I'll never forget it. You had burrowed Ultralisks trying to be all fancy.
Was fancy.
I just kept streaming on. So, very, very awesome. We got a couple emails. And also, chat room, since there's a lag, get your questions ready because we'll be taking more questions. They can be StarCraft related or completely unrelated after this. We got 2 emails. First being from Solar Tornado, who writes in episode 81, you were talking about the DC Open Tournament, and Garrett advised the European players to join it. He also advised people with an extra copy of the game to join. I don't know how it's set up, but if it's one of those competitions that are set up ahead of time, then this might be a possibility. What if someone had 2 copies of StarCraft 2 and had an account for each one, and he signed both of his accounts up for the tournament? What if his first account was matched up against his second account? This might cause some problems. LOL. I don't remember telling people to get a second copy and do this.
It was probably one of those offhanded comments you made at the end. You're, oh yeah, and then if you have 2 accounts, you can enter twice. Double your chances.
I'm pretty sure most tournaments would have something against that. That seems like a pretty obvious rule.
Yeah, I would think like Zeke would have a way to stop people from doing that.
Yeah.
Solange would. Like the big websites probably wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, or at the very least, if they found out, you'd be disqualified.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, but who knows? But I do not remember. Feel free, Solar Tornado, to grab that clip and send it to me because I don't remember saying that. Next, Murray writes in and says, I heard the latest StarCast today where a guy tried for oldest listener at 38, and I laughed. I want to officially throw my helmet into the ring as the oldest player. I'm 49, I play Terran, I'm ranked 7 in bronze. Deal with it. Love the show, listen to it while driving at work. I hope he didn't almost kill himself like Staff Sergeant John did last week, listening to the show while driving. This is a few weeks ago when that guy called in and he was like, oh, I'm 38 and I think I'm the oldest listener. It's like, no, sir, you're not. You really aren't.
I think my aunt beats him as the oldest listener now. So.
Oh, that's true.
Yep.
There you go. I would ask her age, but that'd be rude. So, well, very cool. All right, chat room, it's your time to shine. What questions do you have for Kyle, me, or Mr. Matt Fink over here? And here's, once again, the lag on the stream.
The delay.
My cat is behind me being absolutely adorable. I kind of want to take a picture and post it on I Can Has Cheeseburger. So, man, is the stream that delayed?
Oh, it's about 15 seconds.
It's caught up because people are asking me to flex again.
All right, some are coming in here.
Okay, Octane Pro says, Matt, what is it like to have an A daily, and what types of responsibilities do they have? Oh, and what's his name?
Well, the one who's with me right now, his name is Cole. He's been a friend of mine for a few years now. A lot of my aides, at least at this point, are, friends that have then decided to become aides. So basically activities of daily living. So, like cooking, laundry, that kind of stuff. The stuff that I would have trouble doing on my own. That's basically it. And while he's with me on the trip, playing lots of StarCraft, and he's acting as a personal coach for for me, basically, and he's my practice partner, so, yep.
Oh. All right, well, that's sweet.
Internet Dave asks, Ninja StarCraft asks, why do you hate the Patriots?
Because they are from New England, and everything from New England must die. That's the end of that question. Internet Dave asks a wonderfully wacky off-topic one. He says, if you could have any pet, literally anything, what would it be? Can this be things that don't exist? Because then we could make it StarCraft related.
I wouldn't want a StarCraft pet. They're made for war.
I don't know. I'd like to have an overlord floating around. You know?
Okay, that'd be all right, unless he got layer tech and started pooping everywhere.
Just fix a little tray to his back. He can bring me drinks. That'd be badass.
Or eventually, I'd be a fine master. I'd let my Pokemon evolve, so I'd let him turn into an overseer. Then I'd come home, and there's a bunch of Miis standing in the room, and I'm like, damn it. And then they explode violently.
Oh, I would screw with so many people that way. I would just send my clones into random stores and random public locations and have them explode. And I'd be on the news 3 times that day for dying in public. Absolutely fantastic. Now I really want one. Matt, what do you feel is the most OP unit in Heart of the Swarm?
The most OP unit in Heart of the Swarm? Well, I guess I don't know, because none of the stats have, even been released. But the unit that I think is going to cause the most problems, or is going to be the hardest to balance, is definitely the Replicator. How the hell do you balance that? I mean, Blizzard didn't even attempt to balance the Dark Archon. They just, said, you're cool, but there's no way you're ever going to be balanced, so we're just going to make you so expensive and unuseful that you, never appear in competitive matches. I don't understand how they're gonna make that unit work. It'd be really cool if they could, but I just don't see that being possible.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm actually really afraid now of whatever the thing is that flies over and puts shields on your mineral lines.
Oh, yeah, the Oracle.
Oracle, yeah, that's it. Someone dropped me 3 sentries in the back of my base, walled off all my mineral line, and I couldn't get in there with my queens. My drones just had to die. And I was just imagining to myself, and what if there was additional shields now on my minerals?
Yeah, that shit's like a flying sentry with twice the energy.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Can we get... Someone wants a gear check. What gear do we use? Keyboards, mic, mouse, etc. I will go to Kyle first. Kyle.
About the only thing with a name that I own is my Razer Naga mouse. I made my own computer. I was very proud of this. Made it out of parts that were about 2 years old, so it was cheaper, but still runs very well. I have both a Mac and PC, a Mac Mini that I use for recording, and my gaming computer, which I made myself. And then my keyboard, I have had this thing forever. And I don't lie to you when I say I wanted a new keyboard, but because this thing refuses to die and stop working awesomely, I haven't gotten one.
Nice. Matt, what about you? I know earlier you said you're a Razer whore, but...
Yeah, so I use a Razer Mamba as my mouse. It's the right shape for my arm, so it's the only thing I've ever found that works. My keyboard is not a good benchmark by which you should measure your keyboards because it's so totally unnecessary, but it's awesome. I have...
Well, that's how I like to measure mine, but go ahead.
Yeah. I have one of those OLED keyboards from Art Lebedev, the Optimus Maximus, that I use. I just got it, and I absolutely love it. And I love the switches that it uses. I think they're Cherry Reds. They're whatever the laptop version of the Cherry Reds are, I think.
Cool.
I really love that keyboard.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. That thing is quite awesome.
So, yeah, anyways, as far as computers go, My computer was just stolen a few days ago, so...
Oh,
on our way to Busan, actually. Yeah. So that was fun.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so, I mean, I felt dirty because I bought an Alienware laptop, but it was on eBay and it was cheap, so I bought it to take with me on the trip.
Well, honestly, what are you going to do? Custom build a laptop? Who wants to go through that?
Well, actually, now that you mention it, I'm big into the modding community, and I've always been really disappointed with the fact that no one's found a way to make desktop performance really portable. And so one of the things that I would like to do during the course of this trip is, actually put into, practice, into reality, this mod project that I've had kicking around in my head for a while, which is a laptop form factor, filled with desktop parts, which I'm convinced with the right cooling can be done based on my past experiences, which are numerous, and my knowledge, which is somewhere between encyclopedic and freakishly obsessive when it comes to hardware. So, yeah. I would actually like to build my own laptop or tablet or whatever you want to call it, because I think that would be really, really cool. But for now, I'm stuck using a crappy laptop.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the one I'm using right now is nice, but it's not mine. It's Cole's.
Gotcha. That's cool. I'm on the complete opposite spectrum of you. I have no knowledge on how to build my own computer whatsoever. I used to be a strict Mac user, which is why I had such a fond love for Blizzard games, because they've always shown love to the Mac platform. But once my MacBook Pro that was over like $2,000 died after barely being a year old, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done with these. They're too expensive. They don't hold up to what I want to do with them. And I had a friend custom build me a computer. I told him, this is my budget, this is what I have to work with, just make something happen. And he did, and it's been working good. It's about 3 years old, but it's kind of on death's door. It's having some severe frame rate issues now with the games I like to play. So I'm currently saving up for a Doghouse system, which is our sponsor, just because they build insane rigs. But I don't have to think. They build it for me. It works, and if anything goes wrong, they're awesome. I mean, they've been helping me kind of keep my current rig running, which isn't even one of theirs. So other than that, yeah. And I'm also a big Razer whore. I've got a Imperator mouse right there. This is what I'm going to use. It's just got the two side buttons. I used to use the Naga because I came from World of Warcraft, and that had the absurd amount of buttons on the side. But that's just so unnecessary now for StarCraft. And then I've got their, I believe, Lycosa keyboard. I'm not sure. Yeah. I've had it for a while now, so I don't even remember. I don't know if the wire's even long enough. No, wire's not long enough to hold up. But I really want to get the Black Widow. I recently tried one. I've never tried a mechanical keyboard before. Holy crap, I want one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really bad.
It's funny because, like, if you've never used a mechanical keyboard, I can totally understand why you would think that they're overrated, because I did before I started using one. And then when I started using a mechanical keyboard, I realized I was never going to be satisfied with those rubber dome keyboards ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never even touched one. I'm using one by a company called Dynex. It came free with, like, my computer I bought in 2001, but it just won't die. I'm waiting for this thing to just break in half.
What do I know Dynex from? Something. Oh, they make TVs. That's what I know.
Yes, they do. They make TVs.
It also kind of sounds like a villainous company in a movie.
Yeah, kind of. Sounds like the sort of company Lex Luthor could be running.
Yeah.
Yes, they have Superman insurance. He punches through their wall so many damn times.
It's called kryptonite.
Yes.
Octane Pro in the chat room. If it's so cheap, then why won't it die?
Yeah, because they just don't build them like that anymore. Is it made out of that like yellowing gray plastic that
oh my goodness, thank
CRT
God.
monitors are made out of, Kyle?
Yes, IBM on the top. No, thank goodness.
Octane, the reason why it won't die is because it's like the Zealot. Really cheap, never dies.
Yeah. Take that, Marine haters.
Yeah.
So well, all right. I guess that definitely does it for an episode of StarCast. This is the longest one we've had for a while. This is a damn near 3-hour show. Holy crap! Still no state of the game, but anyways, as always, if you want more StarCast, you can go to thestarcast.com to find links to everything StarCast. That's the official Twitter, Facebook forums, and the music. That awesome remix at the end of the show. You can go download that, make it a ringtone, do whatever you want. You can also you can donate to the show there. You can sponsor an entire episode. We appreciate all the help from you guys. Check out our awesome StarCraft 2 community over at thestarcast.com/forum. And email the show at starcastshow@gmail.com or call the StarCast line at 941-882-0281. That's where we get all of our strategies and random emails. So send your strats, questions, comments, and MP3 attachments that are under 90 seconds to starcastshow@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can also download the StarCast Android app. You can follow us on Twitter at the StarCast. You can follow me at Garrett Art. You can follow Kyle at Kyle Ferguson. And check out our competitive clan, Team CBO's YouTube channel at youtube.com/Team CBO. Matt, what would you like to bump, pimp, whatever? Where can people find you?
All right, so you guys can check me out at Twitter at LookNoHands119 or at TG LookNoHands. I tweet on both. You can also check out Tilt Gaming on Facebook. There'll be a Tilt Gaming website that's coming relatively soon. Also, we're going to be doing a fundraiser for my trip so that we can continue paying for me to have AIDS while I'm gone. That's going to happen probably sometime mid to late January. We're thinking probably the weekend of the 21st, 22nd, that sort of time. So keep your eye out on Team Liquid for that. I'll also be writing a blog here in the next few days. It'll be the first of many, hopefully, sort of an introduction to me and my project and what I'm doing now that I'm here in Korea and set up. Also keep your eye out for the Tilt Gaming official stream. Our players are going to be streaming a few nights a week here starting next week. They're going to be playing some ladder games. We'll be having some fun. We'll be analyzing our replays. I'll be streaming my lessons with In Control each week starting the second week of January when Jeff decides to finally come back to reality. I think it's going to be a really good time. So you guys can check us out on Twitch TV. We make money from our commercials. That's another way that we're helping fund my, my PCAs, my personal care attendance on the trip. So traveling with two people is very expensive. Watson provides enough money for one person to travel, and everything else for us has been out of pocket. So it'd be really great to get some help from the community there. So anyways, cool stuff. Keep an eye out for us.
Very awesome. Kyle, what about you? I know you have another podcast. Where can people listen to you when you're not doing this?
You can listen to me over at Biggest Fan. This past week, we were biggest fans of Legos, or at least Brockett was. I did my best. I'm more of a Connects man personally, but I dispense the knowledge nonetheless. And coming up next week is, of course, Christmas, and followed by that is, not a Christmas episode, it's just Christmas, there's no show. But at any rate, there will be Sherlock Holmes before the end of the year, before the end-of-year review, which is always a very fun show where we look at all the topics we've done over the past year. Kim Kardashian, My Little Pony, all of them, look at where they are today.
Very, very awesome. And that's a good point, Kyle. Before we leave, let's just update you guys on what will be happening with StarCast the next few weeks. Next week will be our should be our final show of 2011. It's going to be just kind of very casual, very fun. Kyle, you and I haven't really even discussed what we're going to do yet, have we?
Nope, we'll come up with something.
Yeah, we'll probably have a lot of community involvement, so pay attention to the Twitter, pay attention to the Facebook, because we'll probably just be bringing a lot of you guys onto the show to have a soapbox. Yep. Except those of you who are in the Ponies Forum. All of you immediately don't get on the show, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Anyways, after the new year, we're going to have some just truly, truly awesome guests. On January 5th, we'll be having the Girls of StarCraft on. We're having Brandy and Livin' Pink both on to guest host. Once again, from Girls of StarCraft. On January 12th, we're having Wiggins from MLG. He is a MLG referee. He'll be on for the show. And on the 26th, we're having EG Machine come on. So we're very excited to have him. And once again, more Zerg, tell me why Terran are bad. So look forward to that. So January's going to be a very exciting month. And, I'm stoked. Are you stoked, Kyle?
Absolutely.
Or just
I was especially stoked to have Matt Fink on today. Thank you so much for being here. Had a blast with you on the show. You're certainly welcome back anytime.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I've been thinking this whole time that maybe my love of gossip could be of use to you guys. So we should talk a little bit.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're always looking for, as you can see, it's very... Our show's put together by just anyone who writes in and kind of like, hey, this is going on, this is going on, and this is going on. So the more you want to keep in contact, the better, man. And definitely let us know when you're doing your next fundraiser, because we would love to, retweet, post on the Facebook, and help you any way we can. So
for sure, that'd be awesome.
It's been great having you. So, thank you very much. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Doghouse Systems. That's doghoussystems.com, and our codes are StarCast and Biscuit. And Best Buy, go to tiny.cc/moregg, and there's just a crap ton of deals if you use that link. So, and all of that directly supports the show, so we really appreciate it. Well, anyways, this has been episode 82, A Long Line of Assholes. I have been Garrett Wines Earl. Good luck. Have fun.